Welcome, everyone. This is Andre's Restart. I am joined by my co host, Brandon. And this week, as we do every week, Monday night, we're talking about Nintendo. And this time, what we're talking about is a brand new rumor that had just came out from the Xbox Era podcast about the Nintendo Switch 2 and its potential backwards compatibility. But also, we'll be discussing our hype and excitement for Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which is coming out at the end of this week. But also some things that have transpired over the course of this last week, such as, for example, some changes that came to light on the key art for Princess Peach Showtime and some interesting differences with how her face is being portrayed, amongst a few other things. So that is a general plan for the evening. But before we go further, Brandon, how are you?
I'm doing good, Been working a lot lately, a lot more hours, which is good, more money. But yeah, just ready to talk Nintendo.
Nice. That's good. It's good to hear. Now, I'm currently trying to fix something here in the background. Guys,
I hear the music now.
Yeah, that just got adjusted. If you guys watching, if you could let me know how everything is looking and sounding. I want to make sure everything's okay now that we're still early on before we actually jump into the discussion before people roll in. For those that are currently here now, please let me know. And if you could like to stream, that'd be very, very helpful. But checking with the chat, Nathan Yardley, hello there. AB James, hello. AB James, you're saying you think you could Wonder is going to sell about 8 million in 3 days.
Huh.
Not quite the 10 million that Scarlet and Violet and Tears of the Kingdom did. And I wish I could give you some sort of prediction. I don't know.
It's really tough.
I don't really know how to pin that down for.
It's hard to gauge how millions and millions of people are feeling about a game, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Before launch.
I do think that with Mario Wonder and the current climate of Nintendo, Mario Wonder is a pretty big game that is being praised quite a bit from we've seen of a lot of the previews and what we expected of the reviews and such. I think that it's going to be it's definitely going to do really well. I don't think there's any doubt in that. I mean, we saw last week that because the Mario Wonder themed Nintendo Switch OLED came out that week last week in Japan, actually did better than the same week last year. So that a lot of people kind of tried to have talked about as a point, suggesting that Switch is not on its way out, or that there's still a lot of momentum and Switch 2 is not around the corner. And we could argue different things here and there, but the fact of the matter is sales kind of go up and down. But
yeah, and you don't want the system to be dead before the next one.
No, for sure not. But what I'm trying to get at, though, is that Mario Wonder, the hype for Mario Wonder, was what led to that spike in Japan. So I think, going into this launch, my expectations are high for this game. And 8 million would be very high. It wouldn't be as high as Tears of the Kingdom's 10, but it would definitely be one of the highest we've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say over the 3 days and such, but, for longer periods of time, I mean, 8 million is going to be nothing in, a couple weeks, a month, a couple months. It's definitely going to blow past that, but it's really hard to say, is it going to pass that in 3 days? It's such a short time frame.
Yeah. But it's tough because Tears of the Kingdom released in May. And while I do think that the hype and discussion for Tears of the Kingdom was greater than Mario Wonder, we are entering the holidays. It's October. And we go back to May, there was actually a lot of games to play, for the core Nintendo fan base. We were fresh. We had gone Fire Emblem Engage in January. We had gone Prime Remastered and Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe in February. March had Bayonetta Origins, but April, which is probably the most important month to factor into this conversation here, we had Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp and Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed less than a month out before Tears of the Kingdom released, just a couple weeks. So it wasn't like there weren't games to play. And now, I'm not saying there aren't games to play now, right? But if we're just talking about like the core Nintendo fan base, what was the last big Nintendo game they released? I don't count Detective Pikachu Returns, although, I'm sure that's going to sell somewhat because it's a Pokemon
Yeah,
release.
it's Pokemon. It will always sell.
Yeah, it's going to sell well. But outside of that, am I missing something like the last big game? Well, what came out in September? The physical releases for Pikmin 1 and 2, but those were out available digitally back in the summer.
I don't even know if I bought anything in September for Switch.
If I'm not mistaken, I think I remember a common talking point I've made in a lot of our discussions and videos I posted that August and September were fairly vacant.
Yeah.
So I guess the ultimate point I'm trying to get at here is that you can make the argument that because we're getting into the holidays and also because there haven't been as many big Nintendo releases leading up to Mario Wonder as there were for Tears of the Kingdom, those two things could help Mario Wonder compare to the sales of Tears of the Kingdom. And you also can make the argument that while Tears of the Kingdom might stir more conversational hype,
Those 2D Mario games, man, they're powerhouses.
They just sell. Like, they're the kind of game that, a mom might walk into a store and be looking for a game.
They're marketable.
Play. She's going to buy that for her kid.
The brand recognition is up there with like Mickey Mouse. Mario sells. They see Mario on the shelf, and 2D Mario is also just such an easy game to get into. You can buy it for your kids. You can play it together as a family. It's got multiplayer. It's a great game for a lot of different audiences, and that's kind of the great thing about the Switch is there's a huge amount of people that own a Switch in every different type of audience. So as long as you put out like a good game in any genre, it's going to sell really well. And 2D Mario has shown that it can sell extremely well. I think, several tens of millions on the Wii ones. I know they sold a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised if this ended up selling, 20, 30 million units if it ends up doing really well. It depends though, because we are pretty short on the Switch's life, supposedly. So we'll have to see there if it has the longevity. But assuming the Switch doesn't, I don't think the Switch 2 will just kill all Switch hype and momentum in all the games and stuff. So I do think it has the potential to hit, like 20, maybe even 30 million units eventually. But I mean, in 3 days, like, I have no idea. Like, it's really hard to say, like, how much it's going to sell in 3 days.
So,
I don't even know if it really matters, to be honest. It's just kind of cool. It's just kind of a cool number, if I'm being, like, really serious.
Yeah. I think my answer is that it's hard for me to give, like, a solid number. I predict it will be in the millions in the first 3 days, but I'm going to predict it will be under Tears of the Kingdom, so under 10.
Probably.
But to your point, going to the holidays and the selling power of Mario Wonder, it may end up competing with Tears of the Kingdom overall in terms of sales for the year. I guess what I'm saying is that, I think Mario Wonder is going to probably have better legs than even Tears of the Kingdom. Not to say that Tears of the Kingdom doesn't have legs, but I think Mario Wonder is going to have better legs. But Tears of the Kingdom definitely, in my opinion, would have like that bigger initial launch.
Yeah, I think Mario Kart and 2D Mario are some of like the biggest potential like sellers for Nintendo, like just period.
Yeah.
So
I will tell you though that if a new Mario Kart was launching, I think that would probably beat Tears of the Kingdom sales.
Eventually.
I think the first 3 days of Mario Kart weekend sales would be the first 3 days of Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah,
I think there's enough hype and excitement and clamoring for Mario Kart right now that it would definitely do that. Like, I mean just think about it. When was the last time we got a brand new console Mario Kart? It was 2014.
Yeah,
we've gotten new content since, right?
Now.
But I think people are definitely ready for an actual whole new Mario Kart game. So I do think the hype for that would be greater. But I know we're already kind of talking about Mario Wonder, so maybe we make that the first topic for the evening. But I am going to kind of do a little bit of Q&A here, and we'll just kind of talk about a few things, and then we'll jump into the topics. So I see here, Taker610 with a super chat, the first super chat for the evening. Thank you very much, Taker. It's super, super appreciated. Taker says, let's not forget that PS3 with backwards compatibility was $599, $600.
It's rough.
I remember
it did
that
not
price
work
tag.
out well for them.
I want to point out that inflation has happened over the years. So $600 now seems like a really high price tag.
Yeah,
back then.
Ooh.
Yeah. It was insane. And I do understand why Taker is bringing up this backwards compatibility thing, because we do have, like as I said earlier, we do have a big rumor for Switch 2 about backwards compatibility, and this is, I think, a pretty good source. So we'll be. It's from the Xbox Era podcast, special Nick. So
I'll
I definitely
have to wait to. Oh, sorry. Finish what you're saying.
I'm just saying that's going to be our after Mario Wonder. We're going to discuss that topic because it's a big topic. Yeah,
I was gonna say I'll have to wait to hear on that
it just
rumor
came out
specifically, because I haven't heard it. But with the PS3 specifically, one of the reasons it was so expensive is because I believe they had like actual like hardware blocks. I believe the Wii did this as well, but I forget why exactly on the PS3 it was more expensive. But they like built in like other hardware that were like essentially ran like a separate PS2 and then a separate like PS1, if I'm not mistaken. Which I don't think they would do for like the Switch 2, obviously, because the space restraints. There would probably be some kind of like emulation of the original Switch, which, if I'm not mistaken, is how they do it on the PlayStation. But yeah, just a little side note, I guess.
Note has been cited. So, checking with the chat here. Let's see. Johnny Hernandez, when do Mario Wonder reviews come out?
I do not know.
I believe the review embargo is October 18th. I don't know that for a fact, but typically we get reviews from major Nintendo titles 2 days before release. So today's Monday, October 16th. Typically Wednesday is when we tend to see those reviews come out, which would be the 18th. So that's what I'm expecting. I'm sure that the answer is out there, the actual answer, and I think it's probably that. But I don't have the answer because I don't have the review copy. I'm not under review embargo. I'm just a fan. And waiting. I mean, I probably could have at least requested it, but that would have been hard to get.
Yeah.
I need a secretary to have done it for me months in advance, like to request a review. I should have requested the review code for that game when it was announced. So it's too late now. But yeah, 2 days. I'm pretty sure we're going to get a deluge of Mario Wonder information. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen all I need to see. I'm just waiting for the game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the same page as you. Like, I'm ready to just play the game.
Yeah.
All right, I got a question here from Scranton. What do you think will end up selling more, Super Mario RPG or Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door? Do you think Nintendo will let this type of sales data inform the future of Mario RPG games?
Well, I mean, as far as which one, like, what does that even mean? Because if you go Thousand-Year Door is kind of like a sequel to the sequel of Mario RPG, and they're both
Paper
RPGs,
Mario, I believe, was its initial name was Super Mario RPG 2.
Yeah, so like either direction is the same direction.
Well, no.
I guess. I mean, in the sense that they're both RPGs is what I mean. Like,
yeah, but
I guess that would tell Nintendo we would want RPGs, right?
Yeah, but I guess the Thousand-Year Door Like a lot of Paper Mario fans prefer the format of Thousand Year Door. I'm sure you
I mean,
do as well.
I do, although I'm biased and I've never played Super Mario RPG, so I can't really
But
say that, to
I
be
guess what I'm
honest.
getting at here,
I need to play the game
I think the
first.
question's more about, at least in general, what most people are wondering who are fans of Paper Mario is that if there's any sort of indication or of like with us getting Mario RPG, I'm trying to rephrase here, with Mario RPG coming out and also getting Thousand Year Door, it's two different Mario RPG games coming out in a fairly close window. It makes fans wonder if Nintendo's sort of reevaluating the series and if they're going to kind of steer in one direction or another. Because with the last few games, we had Origami King, we had Sticker Star, we had Color Splash, and a lot of fans don't like the direction those games have taken, where there's less variety with the characters and the enemies.
Yeah,
And it
lack of
seems to have
RPG
lost a little
elements
bit
as
of
well.
soul, as some people like to say. And then also just like the combat mechanics and how they kind of try and do something sort of wacky every time now versus in the past it was very kind
Yeah,
of
and
tried
it's
and
always the
true.
worst part of the game, at least in my opinion.
I actually enjoy the Origami King
I love
battle
Origami King
system.
until you get into the battles, and I'm like, this is not fun. It's
I
not
like it,
terrible. It's
but
just not
I
great.
also like I might be more inclined for puzzles than you are, I
Mm.
think.
I think
So,
I would have just rather preferred if it was more like Super Paper Mario, in the sense that you
sure.
just kind of kill the enemies like platforming.
Yeah. But anyways, the point is that there's a lot of fans that want to see Nintendo go back into more of the direction of Thousand Year Door.
Oh yeah.
So there's
I mean, I
this
think
kind of general wondering if maybe these two different games that are coming out could perhaps steer Nintendo in one direction or another. So to
I think
answer
if
your
Thousand Year
question,
Door sells really well, it could tell them that we want Paper
more of
Mario to
that,
be an RPG series. But other
maybe.
than that, I don't think one selling over the other really tells Nintendo anything unless it's like a huge gap. But then I don't
Sure.
even really know what it tells them because they're both Mario RPGs. But if Thousand Year Door, say, sells much better than Origami King or even close, I mean, it's a remake, I think that would tell Nintendo something.
Well, maybe if there's anything to take away, if there ends up being a disparity, is that the kind of classic RPG mechanics we saw with the first few Paper Mario games, if Mario RPG does better than Thousand Year Door, perhaps some are thinking that Nintendo will kind of keep the RPG mechanics, but in a series
Mm.
separated from Paper Mario.
Ah,
And maybe Paper Mario kind of sticks to what it's been over the
I
last
see.
decade or so. So maybe that's what's at stake here. Now, if you want my opinion on what this means, I think it's hard to say, because I think regardless of how either game sells, I think there are people behind these projects that have
Mm,
certain opinions on where they want the series to go. They may
right.
already be working on the next Paper Mario game, and it may be the case that regardless of how either of these perform, it won't change anything. So that there's just that to consider. But also, sometimes I grow concerned of like a company making decisions based on how one game sells over another, which I
Mm,
understand. You have to make smart business decisions for your business.
right.
But Mario RPG is coming out in November. I don't know when Thousand Year Door is coming out. I mean, it's sometime next year, right? And with
Could
all
be
this,
next
the talk of
November. Who
Switch 2
knows?
next year, there may be a lot of other games that may kind of stand above Thousand Year Door, which may seem hard to believe now because Thousand Year Door seems like the most exciting thing for maybe most of us here watching that's
I mean, it
publicly announced for next year.
probably will
But
be, yeah, my
but
number
I
one or
mean,
number two game for next year.
well, I mean, okay. Well, if we end up getting 3D Mario next year, if we end up getting Metroid Prime 4 next year, like those are two brand new games, that have been in development for let's
Mm,
say half a decade or so each by Nintendo's top studios. Those
mm,
games are probably going to get a lot of excitement. And then there's going to be a new Pokemon game next year, and there could be other things. I'm not saying
true.
Thousand Year
But
Door
those
is
aren't
not going to
Thousand
be.
Year Door. So
I'm
that's
not
just
saying
me.
Thousand Year Door
Just
is going to be overshadowed. All I'm
I know
saying
what
is
you're
that
saying.
Thousand Year Door may not come out in the perfect time
No,
for it to
yeah,
sell
for
better than
sure.
Mario RPG. That all said, I think like I said, I think it really comes down to what Nintendo's planning, and we
Yeah.
don't know what that is. I'm not too. I guess the answer is we don't know. I think if Thousand Year Door sells really well, though, like if it ends up being like a
Mm.
4 to 5 million, if it sells better than Origami King,
Yeah, I think most of it's on
that
or Thousand Year Door sales. That's the
yeah,
biggest determining
I,
factor
I I
here.
do ultimately agree with you, Brandon, that while maybe there's a discussion to be had that if Mario RPG does really well, maybe Nintendo might sway in that direction and kind of keep the two series separate. But I think ultimately, if there's anything to really kind of like be concerned about or be thinking is what you're saying, that
It'd just be
if
weird
Thousand Year
because they're
Door does
both
really well,
like they are separate, but they're like not
not
really separate. So it'd be weird to have two separate series. They're both like one's a direct spiritual successor of the other. That would be really odd.
yeah. Do we think Thousand Year Door is going to even become the best selling Paper Mario?
I would love to believe that, but who knows, man?
I'm kind of curious on how each game is sold, actually.
I
'Cause
honestly
I'm
don't
seeing in
know.
the chat from Netweed that Thousand Year Door only sold 2 million on the GameCube, which it was the
I mean,
GameCube,
that's a
so
GameCube,
that's
so that's pretty good for
yeah.
GameCube.
I'm looking at the sales here. Okay, so this doesn't count Mario RPG, just because it's Paper Mario. But Paper Mario sold 1.37 on the Nintendo 64.
Mm.
GameCube, Thousand Year Door, according to this, sold 1.91 million.
Oof.
Super Paper Mario on the Wii sold 4.23.
Okay.
Paper Mario Sticker Star sold 2.49.
Boo.
Paper Mario Color Splash didn't even hit a million.
Yeah, rough.
0.87. Origami King sold 3.47.
All right,
So that
respectable.
would mean it hasn't sold better than Super Paper Mario on the Wii.
I think Thousand Year Door could take it. I think it could. Those are not high numbers, my friend. I think.
I mean, 3.5 million is nothing to slouch at.
Yeah, but Thousand Year Door, I don't know, man. I'm probably just like I love this game too much to honestly give a non-biased answer. So
That's
I'm gonna
true.
say yes. It's gonna be the best-selling one because I want it to be.
Okay. I think that Thousand Year Door is going to do better than its original GameCube release.
I would definitely hope so.
Although
It's possible it doesn't.
Metroid Prime Remastered, last I heard, only sold a little over 1 million.
Mm,
And Metroid Prime on the GameCube sold 2.5.
but this is Mario. It's got Mario attached.
But Metroid Prime sold better than Paper Mario on the GameCube. Now,
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say,
You're not making bad points, but I don't like them.
hold on, because Origami King sold better than Metroid Dread. Granted, Origami King's been out
Yeah.
for longer. Yeah, Origami King came out summer 2020. Metroid Dread came out holiday 2021, October 2021. But it feels like Metroid Dread plateaued, and Origami King probably is kind of close to plateauing as well.
Probably.
There's a difference of like maybe about 500,000 or like 400,000 copies. So you could argue that Paper Mario has better selling power than 2D Metroid does, but that's not Metroid Prime. But Prime Remastered is even worse. Prime Remastered only sold like 1 million. But I think that a key consideration to be made here is was a couple. One, Metroid Prime Remastered is a remaster. Paper Mario Thousand Year Door is being treated as a remake. It's not even being called like deluxe or remake. It's just Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. That's how Nintendo handles the remakes. They just kind of put the title of the game. They don't even say remake. They're just like, this is the game. Here it is, remade.
Yep.
So you kind of got that going
glorious.
for it. I think that kind of bodes well for kind of the suggestion to the effort put into this product. But also, second, this game was announced way in advance. Like,
Oh yeah.
Thousand
It's
Year
got
Door.
marketing.
Thousand Year Door was the big final reveal of the last Nintendo Direct.
Which makes me so happy.
And it may not come out for at least another half year, if not more. So there is a marketing lead up that looks like we're getting with Thousand Year Door versus what they did with Metroid Prime Remastered. It wasn't really
They dropped
heralded
it
or
like it was hot,
celebrated or
bro.
advertised. They were just like, "Hey, Metroid Prime Remastered, here it is. Play it now," which is cool. But that wasn't like a marketing lead up. It wasn't advertised or pushed. So maybe we shouldn't even look at Prime Remastered sales.
I mean, Dread got an absolutely insane marketing push. One of the biggest I've ever seen from Nintendo.
Yeah, no, Dread was pushed and it hit 3 million.
Yeah,
yeah. I wonder how. I guess maybe a good comparison then would be like what were Metroid Fusion sales. If you want to try and because maybe that's a better comparison than Metroid Prime.
Yeah, Fusion to the GameCube version.
Metroid Fusion sold 1.6 million units.
That's less. That's less, baby.
That's less. So, which might only
looking like I'm gonna win.
To be frank, it kind of puts it around Origami King numbers. So, but that's for a new game. Remakes, I don't know. Like I feel I kind of have the sense that remakes don't sell as well as new games.
Although they're not really branding it as a remake. It's just kind of like, here's the game.
Right. So it may end up doing really well. There's a lot goes into it. I think regardless, though, Brandon, you and I are on the same page. Thousand Year Door is a very big deal game, and I'm very excited about it. And I hope it does outsell Origami King, because if it does,
I hope so.
Then the Paper Mario fan base that has been clamoring for them to kind of have this return to form. If there's any sort of message that we can give Nintendo, it's having Thousand Year Door become the best-selling Paper Mario game, or at least better than Origami King.
And so I like Origami King. It's just the Thousand Year Door is just better. Just how it is.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Checking with the chat here. I'm gonna do a couple more questions, then we're gonna jump into our Mario Wonder topic. Let's see here. Score Bunny, when do you think Wave 6 of the Mario Kart Deluxe DLC will release? I might make a video kind of on my final expectations for the last wave at some point this week, assuming there's time. I was kind of looking.
Were we given any general time frame?
Holiday.
Just holiday.
Holiday, yeah.
That's
but
extensive.
Wave 3 for Mario Kart came out December 7th. However, the trailers, I think there was 2 trailers for it, because there was a small teaser of it in the September Direct, like they showcased like a track, and then I'm seeing it here, and so on November 21st they put out the trailer showcasing all 8 tracks. So that's kind of how they've handled it. So the September Direct will tease like a track or 2 or something like that, and then there'll be a bigger trailer that comes out in November.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten the second trailer yet.
We haven't gotten that trailer yet. That showcases the whole thing. Mario Wonder is coming out this week. So I mean, I don't think it's going to be this soon. I think it really just comes down to. But okay, well, what I'm curious on, when did Wave 2 release? Wave 2, because I think they came out, I think the waves that are coming out this year are coming out earlier is the point I'm trying to make here. So Wave 2
I honestly
came out August 2022.
Okay.
So then the comp would be Wave 5. And that came out in July.
Okay, so a month off.
3 weeks off.
Well, I was just kind of rounding up.
Well, I mean, at this point, I know, but I'm just like, it's already the mid-October, right? So, like, if we get the month right, how much is that really saying?
True.
So, 3 weeks now. But let's double check the release date for Wave 1 versus Wave 4. I think it came out March. Yeah, Wave 1 came out March 18th, and then Wave 4 March 9th.
Close together.
So a week earlier. So we have one wave having come out a week earlier this year, and then another coming out 3 weeks earlier. So let's average it out. 2 weeks. There you go. So what's 2 weeks before December 7th? I would place it November.
I mean, that just gives us a variable window. Doesn't really. Well, we can go with this though. This is all
I mean,
theoretical,
if we're gonna
anyways.
do a prediction, right? Like we don't know. I would say the latest is the first week of December, just like they did last year. But I can see it
Yeah.
happening
Right.
late
The 2
November.
weeks is like our kind of like window of variance here.
What I'm curious on, when does Mario, because they may want to try and space out the releases of their games and the DLC. So Mario RPG release date is not the original release. I meant for Switch,
That's
November
so helpful.
17th.
Okay.
So Mario RPG comes out November 17th. I could see, I'll say that Wave 6 comes out 1 week after Mario RPG.
Is there Pokemon coming out next month? Any DLC? Honestly, I haven't been following it, so I don't
The
know.
DLC already came out.
Okay, it's already out? Okay, cool.
Yeah, and the next DLC, I don't think it's not coming out that soon after.
Okay.
But there is a WarioWare game that's coming out in November.
Okay.
Yeah.
November's got some stuff.
Yeah, but it comes out at the beginning of November. So
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with that. I'm
yeah.
gonna say it comes out the last full week of November. So
That's a fair prediction.
So
I'll go
sometime
with
between
that too.
25th and 27th. That's October. Hold on. The 22nd and 24th of November. That's what I'm going to predict. Yeah, I might do a little bit more research on this, and there'll be a more full, comprehensive video later this week. But just based off what you heard here, that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. District Pops, you love the Monolith Soft video today. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I always love to talk about Monolith Soft, bro.
Yeah, we might talk a little bit about today too. By the way, Joyce, I saw earlier you saying everything is looking and sounding good. Thank you for letting me know. Hello there, Samuel. All right, so let's just jump into Mario Wonder.
All right.
Yeah. All right, so this game's coming out. Coming out on Friday.
Yes, sir.
And I think was it last week or week before, we were kind of debating like how well this game might review. So we don't have to do that again. Like I don't, unless anything's happened since then that's made you change your mind.
No,
I didn't think so. And I just, like we're just a few days away. I did kind of I put out a video last week just kind of talking about how I think Mario Wonder is a Dark Souls of 2D Mario games. And what's kind of funny is like, it's one of those titles where it was meant to be done as kind of like an attention grabber. I wasn't lying. I believe in what I'm saying, but I think people will make assumptions on the title, and the reason I made the title in that way is I want people to hear me out and let me explain why I'm saying what I'm saying. And so, to kind of sum it up, what I was getting at is that yes, I think there was a Game Informer interview where challenge was discussed that not all the developers could do everything in the game without some help. So the game isn't just all a cakewalk. But most Mario games aren't all a cakewalk. They are a cakewalk for the first half, but if you're a completionist, if you're trying to do every single level, trying to collect every item, there's a lot of challenge to be found. So the badges are discussed as well. And so I kind of talk about how, yes, there's challenge, but it went beyond that because we have a lot of the online elements, how there's these ghosts and we can see them, or shadows running across the game world. Very much how when you're playing a Soulsborne game online, you see these phantoms or shadows running around the game world. And you see how they play throughout the game world, and thus you can take hints up off of that. Same exact system. And on top of that, you can leave a standee in Mario Wonder, kind of like a hit system or a way to sort of restore someone, the same way you can leave hints or clues in the Soulsborne games as well. And they both technically have some version of player versus player. Or player versus enemy. Like like you can team up.
Seeing the inspiration.
Exactly. So the title was, I think, made a lot of people think, oh, he's talking about difficulty. I was mentioning difficulty as an element, but it had more to do with a lot of the online features that make it
Right.
very similar. And
Dark
so
Souls
I
is
think
more
about
than
those
just a
things.
difficult game.
Yeah, I think honestly, like the difficulty is a little bit exaggerated. Um,
Mm.
well, maybe it's not. I there are tougher games out there, is what I'm trying to say. F-Zero GX. Yeah, you want to play a tough game, beat F-Zero GX 100%, and then come and tell me that it's easier than a Soulsborne game. I'll tell you that you're lying. Not Soulsborne games are challenging, but the F-Zero GX is like too hard. It's like unbeatable hard. But
That's hilarious.
that's a whole other discussion. Point is, I'm very excited for Mario Wonder. You know, I kind of brought up that topic just because I really do like the features, and it goes beyond just like the online stuff. The badges have me really excited. And I've talked about before how like it reminds me a lot of Cuphead, another game I really enjoy.
Oh yeah.
This game's gonna be fun. And you know, like even though it's not exactly how I kind of thought they might do the online before we got word or a hint that it wouldn't be normal,
Right.
you and I can still play together.
Yeah.
We can still explore this game together, challenge each other, and it's gonna be a fun time. I am looking forward to this game.
Oh yeah.
I don't even know, I have nothing negative to say about this game. I mean, maybe when it comes out, I'll change
No,
my
not
mind.
really.
But like everything about this game, I'm excited about. I love the art style. I love the gameplay changes with all the wonder effects. Like as I said earlier, the badges, the online stuff. The fact that we're at least hearing that there is challenge being designed into this game. It's not just being made into a cakewalk game for everyone.
Mm.
There's an element of that, but there's also the challenge for those who seek it. Like it seems like it's the ideal Mario game.
It's got something
So,
for everybody.
yeah, the only thing that I guess some people are kind of debating, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago already, is the lack of collision. I'm
Oh,
okay with that.
I love
You're
that.
okay with that, right?
In
You
fact,
don't.
it's the best change
Yeah.
ever.
When the first trailer came out, I remember we were reacting to the direct back in June.
Yeah, I literally
and you were like,
mentioned
"There's
it.
no collision," and I'm like, "Huh, you're right. There's no collision. This is great news."
Yes, sir.
We don't like the collision from the prior Mario games. I know some people do. So I guess some people might not be too excited about that, but I think there's plenty of challenge being put into this game. I think where some of that concern comes in is that maybe some like the challenge or the strategy that comes with the collision. This game is not like other Mario games. It's its own thing. So there will
Right.
still be challenge, and there will still be different ways to handle different platforming puzzles or challenges. You have to find those different ways. I think a lot of that's going to come from the badges. Something about the badges that maybe not everyone realizes. Not every badge is meant to make the game easier. Some of them are meant to make the game harder. Like there's this jet sprint badge where you only can dash through the stage, I think. So
Oh wow.
yeah, so if you're doing that, you'll go through fast and that's fun. But that doesn't mean it's easy.
No.
So there's different things like that we're gonna see in Mario Wonder that I think are gonna add a lot more variety to the gameplay. And I think it just has me excited for this game. I think I've ever been this excited for a 2D Mario game.
Yeah, I'm just
Ever.
like, they haven't really shown too much of the game. I feel like they've done a good balance. Of course, I didn't watch the Treehouse footage because I believe Treehouse did some. I forget how long. They did some extra play time with that. I forget when, but I didn't watch it, and so there's a lot about the Wonder Seeds that I'm very curious about, just in terms of like what they're gonna do. And they seem like every time they show a new trailer, like every Wonder Seed transformation is so different. It changes the game and adds new gameplay elements in such a crazy way. Like it's not just like the same one idea in every different level. It's so unique. Like there's so many different gameplay concepts that they just touch on. So I think it's going to be really cool to just find out what the different level designs in the game actually are, because I think it's going to vary a lot level by level as you use the Wonder Seeds.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, they've told us that with the Wonder Seeds, it's going to change around a lot. But Brandon, let me ask you something. as person is mentioning here in the chat, I'm seeing my person says Mario Wonder is the next Mario Bros. 3. Mario Bros. 3 was a huge step into the Mario Bros. Series, and Wonder is the next. And I guess I find that comment interesting because I definitely get the sense that Mario Wonder it kind of reminds me of Mario Bros. 3 or Mario World. Like before Mario 64, Mario Bros. 3, Mario World were like the Mario adventures. Like those were the big deal adventure games. And now that we've entered the 3D era, I think people kind of look at 2D games as like something lesser. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. 3D Mario next year is probably gonna have me even more excited. Like I definitely do personally prefer 3D Mario games. But I don't want to say that and for it to be interpreted as I think 2D games are lesser. It's just different. Like Metroid Dread was my favorite game of 2021, for example. Like it was the best game, and that's a 2D game. But Mario Wonder, it may end up being like the second best game of the year for me. It's got some steep competition because you got Pikmin 4, you got Metroid Prime Remastered, Fire Emblem Engage, there's the Xenoblade Chronicles DLC, Advance Wars 1-2 Reboot Camp. Like there's some good stuff there. Notice I didn't mention Tears of the Kingdom because I'm talking about number 2. Tears of the Kingdom is number 1 for me. But there's definitely some competition. But I do think Mario Wonder is going to be one of the best games of the year. And I brought up Mario Bros. 3 and Mario World because back then those were the games. And Mario Wonder with its art style, it really does kind of remind me of those games. It's its own thing, but it just feels like a very inspired adventure. And I'm excited.
Yeah, it's not generic. Like the 2D games back in the day, they all had a kind of different look from each other, and they were unique and they looked great. And then you had like, I don't know, I never liked the new style. It's just the most generic. Like it doesn't look ugly, right? But it doesn't look inspired or interesting at all, really. And
cookie
just
cutter.
Wow. Yeah, cookie cutter for sure. And just what Mario Wonder is doing is just
and
it's
for
just a
those
whole other
that
level.
don't know what cookie cutter means, so if you take the phrase cookie cutter literally, it's a cookie cutter. It's a piece of like aluminum or what have you that it's a shape, and you put it into cookie dough to cut the shape of a cookie. And so you kind of repeat that to create the same thing repeatedly. So when you call something cookie cutter, you're just kind of saying it feels like a little bit of a rehash. It doesn't exactly as Netweed says in chat. Cookie cutter replicated. So you look at the different like new games, the new Mario Bros. Games, they feel replicated. It doesn't feel as inspired as you were saying earlier. Even though I really like New Super Mario Bros. U, it was kind of those games in HD, and there were some levels that had definitely a good art direction.
Yeah,
the bulk of it definitely felt like okay, it's kind of just more of the same, but in HD.
I like the Van Gogh level.
That was the one level I had in mind when I said that had somewhat of a new artistic design to it. But yeah, I do get where you're coming from with that, and Mario Wonder feels. It feels really fresh, and it also feels like something that they can kind of iterate upon. I know a lot of people have kind of thought, okay, well, we had the new series, so maybe now it's going to be the Wonder series. We'll see. I don't know. I will say that I anticipate that I'm going to enjoy Wonder a lot. And while I did say earlier that I think that the 3D Mario game is probably going to be an even bigger deal for me, I think it's possible that if the 3D Mario isn't like the best 3D Mario ever, that I could end up liking Mario Wonder more. Like I think Mario Wonder has a strong chance to be considered one of the best Switch games. We'll see how great that is. Like we talked about a couple weeks ago, right? Like we think this game may hit in the 90s on Metacritic. If it hits like a 93 on Metacritic, I think that would put it like in the top 10 Switch games or really close to that. So, I think there's a lot of potential here, and I'm very excited.
Oh, yeah, dude. I cannot wait to play it. In fact, a little funny story. Last Friday, my younger brother's been over for like days doing something. And we thought we were gonna get to play Mario Wonder because I've been working so much I didn't even know what like day or week it was. And my brother was like, "Oh, Mario Wonder's coming out this week." I'm like, "It's October. That sounds about right, sure." And it was in fact not coming out Friday. So yeah, we thought we were gonna play that last week, but I'm very excited to play it this week when it actually releases.
Yeah. I also thought last week for like a day, oh yeah, it's coming out next Friday. I didn't think about it for more. The 20th isn't here yet, but it will be this week.
Yeah, I saw a tweet from Jeff Keighley talking about how it was gonna be great playing Mario Wonder next week. I saw that on Friday and I was like, oh man.
Yeah. He might be able to. Well, actually, I mean, if you go to Target, you'll find a demo of Mario Wonder.
Bro, I haven't seen a Target.
Yeah. I went to a
around
Target the
so
other
long.
day and then the TV was off because they suck. But
Yeah, I haven't been to
yeah.
a Target in so long. I don't even know where the
Yeah.
nearest Target is.
Yeah. I'm very much looking forward to this Friday.
Oh yeah.
But is there anything, Brandon, about this game that you're worried about? Is there any like thing that you could see you jumping into the game and you're like, oh, they did this and I don't like it, or didn't do?
I mean, I guess there's some things I could be disappointed about, like if, for example, there aren't that many Wonder Seed transformations and they have really just shown us like a lot of what the creativity and variety of the game is, which I don't think is the case. The boss battles have the potential to be generic, but they already, even the little bit we've seen already look kind of interesting. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't think there's anything that there's potential for it to be bad, but not really anything that's like realistic, to be honest.
My concern, if I have any concern, yeah, you kind of touched on it, is the boss fights, because we've seen some mention that they're going to go into this game to have the boss fights sort of represent a little bit more than usual. And I'm very curious on what that's going to actually mean. Because I'll say that with the 2D Mario games, I've never really been like, whoa, that was a great boss fight. No, it's just kind of like, okay, bonk the head 3 times. All right, there we go. Move on. It is usually just one of the Koopalings. Like, it's nothing crazy. It's just, that's what it is. It's just part of the platforming experience. It's nothing insane. So I'll be very curious to see how they might handle bosses in this game. And it's not to say that 2D games can't have good boss fights. Like, other series have amazing boss fights in 2D. I think you can make an argument that there's a lot of boss fights in games. There might be better ones in the 2D format as opposed to the 3D one. Like, I can think of a lot. The Castlevania boss fights come to mind. Metroid boss fights come to mind. So I mean, even Zelda boss fights come to mind. Like, there's some pretty awesome ones. But I never really, when I think about 2D Mario, I don't think about boss fights. And I guess the reason why this kind of matters is because in 3D Mario, there are great boss fights. So it would be interesting if they could do something with Mario Wonder where boss fights become a highlight of the game.
I think the Wonder Seeds are going to change the boss fights up, because like the biggest issue I have with the boss fights in the new games is, well, yeah, obviously, but like, I just mean I think it's going to work.
I hope so. That's if I have a concern, that's it.
Yeah, because the Koopalings issue with the new series is that they're all kind of just like the same fight, almost like slightly harder. Is they're not that interesting in the first place, and they're not that dissimilar from each other either.
Yeah.
So overall, it's just kind of meh. But throw some Wonder Seed action in there, I'm sure they'll mix it up.
Yeah. So I'm very curious how that's going to go. I mean, I guess something that's interesting is that we have seen that the Wonder Seeds can do a lot. I mean, the Wonder Seed is what transformed Bowser, if I'm not mistaken. and he turns into a giant battleship. So
Yeah.
what can that mean for the Koopalings? So maybe the Koopalings will be the bosses. I mean, we saw, I think, Bowser Jr. in as one of the boss fights. So
he was
maybe
like
he's like a mini boss.
growing and you were shrinking and
Yeah. So I don't know what they're gonna do. I think that's part of Mario Wonder. It leaves you wondering what's going to happen.
right.
But I guess it does give me a fair bit of optimism that they're gonna mix them up this time around. It's gonna feel something that we may look upon fondly after playing. So that's maybe my only concern, but I have optimism that they're gonna even handle that part well. So I'm ready. So anyways, I think let's check in with the chat real quick, and then we'll move on to the next topic.
Sounds good.
Unless there's something else you wanted to address.
No.
Yeah, I actually something here, and I see some people referencing in the chat. Mario Wonder has leaked, so beware. It doesn't seem like the kind of game that you should be as worried about spoilers.
I don't see how there's gonna be like a screenshot or something that I'm gonna be like, oh gosh,
the game is ruined for me.
How dare they?
Yeah, I do want to be surprised though, so I don't want to be spoiled on the game.
Yeah, but I think the kind of surprises that Mario Wonder has go beyond something that a simple screenshot could take away from you, right? Like it might give you a little glimpse, another little hint, but it's not really gonna hurt the experience. Like you're getting a small snapshot of a lot of things that are gonna be changing throughout a whole level.
Yeah,
it's not like with an RPG where you see like a dead character or something. You're just like, well, shoot.
All right, looking at the chat here, and I look with fear because I don't want to be spoiled.
The chat's out to get us now with the spoilers.
Super Chris, I wish the major bosses in the mainline Super Mario games wouldn't take 3 hits to defeat.
Yeah, that formula's kind of old now.
I definitely want my expectations subverted. So hopefully they do that with the Wonder effects. AB James, probably my only complaint, no triple jump, but that ain't a big deal.
There's no triple
jump?
That
is interesting that if there's no triple jump. I didn't realize
I mean,
that.
I barely ever use triple jump, to be honest, but
it's not in every Mario, in every 2D Mario game.
Really? Well, I guess that shows you how much I use that move.
Yeah, I mean, it's in some of them, but not all of them.
I guess it doesn't really matter to me then, because apparently I didn't even realize this fact.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
guess it doesn't change too much for me.
I think there's a whole bunch of other things you can do in the game, so I'm not worried about it. Like, I guess, it is something that when I play Mario Wonder, I'm going to try and test,
It could be a badge for it even.
Could be. Oh, maybe there is a badge for it. Could be. Or something that's very similar. I mean, there's a number of different things we've seen that you can do. You have the vines that kind of like you throw the vine, you can like rope yourself to other parts of the stage.
There's also those enemies that have like vines coming out of their tongues, or the hooks coming out of their tongues. I mean, you can grab on.
Yeah. So there's just so many different abilities that you can unlock in the game. I'm not concerned about there not being a triple jump. It's its own thing, and I think that's, if anything, a good thing. Like, Mario Wonder is not like prior Mario games. It's its own game. So I'm not going in with expectations that's going to play like other Mario games necessarily, even though, I mean, it's 2D Mario, so you assume you run and jump, right? Like, that's still going to be a thing, but
reminds me of
there'll be different mechanics.
I think it's Super Mario Brothers 2 where they go to, I'm going to probably butcher this, Sarasaland? That's where the one with daisies in it?
Sarasaland, yeah. That's I think Super Mario Land.
Yeah, that game, this one reminds me of that game just because we're going to like a different place and it's just such a weird, wacky adventure where
it's not the Mushroom Kingdom, it's the Flower Kingdom. It's a neighboring kingdom.
I feel like
it's interesting. I remember putting out a video kind of like wondering if maybe Sarasaland is the Flower Kingdom. they're one and the same. Although there isn't any clear evidence that that's the case. So
no, but I could see maybe if they were just inspired by that game.
Maybe. If we start seeing like giant phoenix heads, well, I'll start
but maybe like
wondering.
just the concept of just like a wacky Mario game in a different land, you know.
Well,
that's that inspiration.
That is the interesting opportunity. I mean, from what we've seen of some of the worlds, like they look different, and that has me excited.
They look wild.
Yeah,
they don't look generic at all. They look great and absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah,
what a beautiful game,
for sure. But I think I'll check this one chat here from Joyce, and then we'll move on. Joyce, Wonder is giving me Super Mario World on SNES vibes. Super Mario World has been my favorite Mario for so long, and I'm hyped to see if Wonder can take the #1 spot. I feel the same way, at least in terms of it. Mario World is the game that I kind of think of. Like Mario World is like my go-to 2D Mario game. Like if we exclude Wonder, of all the 2D Mario games, if there's one Mario game I would choose to play, it would be Mario World. So, you know, I'm very interested to see what happens with Wonder, but there is a similar kind of vibe with the art style and such, and kind of, I think what they chose with the characters, it is intentionally made them to look kind of like prior 2D Mario games, because like prior 2D, like the old, like before the 16-bit era, right, in the 8-bit era, specifically 16-bit era with Mario Bros. 3 and World, like Mario kind of looked like a little bit heftier. And so there's kind of a little bit more of a wideness to him. And you look at the characters now, I think I remember reading an interview where they were talking about like if we saw them from like a normal 3D perspective, like in a third person, like a traditional third person game, or like straight in front, their proportions would look off. I think they actually kind of stretched them out and angled them so to kind of make it look a lot like the older 2D Mario games in terms of art style, like kind of fit that
sideways
they would be weird otherwise.
On the characters, which allows you to see much more of their faces, see more expressions, allow them to be much more animated. It just looks a lot better. Like the running
it only looks good from this
side by side.
If you were to change it, it would look botched. Which is funny.
But compared to the animations in like New Super Mario Brothers, they just look so much better. And I love what they're doing with the kind of like stop motion look too when you get like the power-ups and stuff. I think that looks amazing. Or they add like the 2D effects around your character too. That looks great. It's actually honestly hard to tell. And Digital Foundry was saying the same thing in their podcast because they're currently looking at the game. I'm sure in a couple of days a video will drop from them. But it's kind of hard to tell like what's 2D in the game and what's being rendered like as a 3D object.
Yeah.
Which is just really good. It just means everything fits really well together. You don't really want 2D and 3D elements to look separate. You want them to look like the same kind of thing.
Yeah. Something about 2D games that sometimes give people issues is knowing what you can jump on and what you can't.
It's very clear here.
Yeah, I believe, I mean, from everything I tell it is. So, you know, and by having the 3D visuals, that can help. It helps differentiate for sure. But let's move on to the next topic, because we have still a decent amount to talk about tonight. And this one's some fairly big news potentially. And I'll probably be making a video about this tomorrow. This might be like a really, really big topic. So just putting it out there, there's some implications. But basically there's a rumor that Nintendo Switch 2 will be backwards compatible, but it's not that simple. So the rumor is coming from the Xbox Era podcast. They had a podcast yesterday, and Special Nick, who is someone who's been known throughout the industry, who has said different things. They kind of specified on something they had heard a while back. Remember that rumor we talked about a couple months ago on how there is supposed to be some kind of gimmick or something that Nintendo's doing with the Switch 2 that's very Sony-like.
Right.
Well, apparently what they're doing, and Nick makes sure to specify that this is just what he heard was a plan at one point, and this may have changed. Plans are always subject to change, right? So, you know, regardless of how much you believe this person, even this person himself has doubt in what will actually end up coming to market. That said, what's being said is that the plan was, at least at one point, maybe still, is that they're going to have two different Switch models. One will be a more expensive, backwards compatible Switch, and another will not be. So, I'll just say for me, if that is what happens, I'm okay with that. Because I want my Switch 2 to be backwards compatible. I want it fully backwards compatible. I want to get my Switch 2, log into my Nintendo account, bring over all my cloud saves, download all my eShop titles, and take my cartridges and put them into my Switch 2 for my Switch 1 and have it function as a Switch 1, but also it does more because it's a Switch 2. That's what I want. And if I have to spend an extra $50 to $100 to do it, I'll do it. I don't know if other people will do it, but Nintendo will give us options if this rumor is true, which I think is fine.
I'm gonna go ahead and say options in this case is probably bad.
Why?
Like, why divide the user base like this for no reason? I mean, you already have. There's so many people that have a Switch that are gonna want to have backwards compatibility. It's not like this is like a Wii U to Switch situation where there's like only a small audience that's going to want backwards compatibility. The vast majority of users are going to want backwards compatibility. So essentially, the non-backwards compatibility unit, I don't think it will sell. Like, who would pay like $50 less to get way less features? I mean, if you have a Switch at this point, why would you ever buy another Switch that you couldn't play your current Switch games on, when there's a version of the Switch that's only a little more expensive that you can? That just doesn't make any sense. Like, why would anybody want this unit unless you didn't have a Switch? And then, like, that's not that many people, I would assume, because most people have the Switch. It just doesn't make sense. Why even launch the non-backwards compatibility model? Just, if you can afford to launch a backwards compatibility model and it works, just do that as your only model. It doesn't make sense to confuse the user base
this
that
part
way.
is speculation, and I said I'm saying it separately because I don't want to. Yeah, I want to be clear what's the rumor and what is speculation, right? So
it would also be weird to follow Sony's small point. Sony's biggest failure during the PS3 was this exact decision. So I don't know why you would follow one of Sony's biggest blunders in their entire history. You'd just be like, yeah, let's do that.
Because what Sony don't Nintendo do.
If they're dumb.
Well, again,
shot in the foot.
Rumor, maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe they really were considering it, but they ultimately didn't go forward with this idea.
I think that might be what happened.
Well, I mean, we won't know until it happens or doesn't. But some speculation, if this is true, is that there would be two versions then. The non-backwards compatible version would also be a digital only version.
Ugh.
And then there would be the version that can take physical cartridges, which would obviously, or maybe not obviously, but it would allow it to be able to take cartridges, which could include Switch 1 cartridges. And the thing about this is that, well, we just got the announcement of the new PlayStation revision, and there's, they're pushing the digital only. You can add a disk drive, but it's optional, right? You can take it on and off. And then we know about the Xbox that's coming out next year.
The digital only version kind of makes sense. Yeah, I mean, well, they just upgraded the 1S to a 1 terabyte model, but you have to pay extra for it. It's like $50 extra.
Yeah, but we also have the cylinder that was leaked. That's digital only.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just saying.
We're not sure what's gonna happen with that exactly, but it's probably gonna release.
Point is, there's a lot of digital only consoles that are in the works or are planned to be coming or something to that effect, and we are moving in this direction of digital only becoming more and more prevalent. Not as the only option, but as a very prevalent option.
But
the industry is moving in this direction, and I think if Nintendo sees an opportunity to do so, because it will make them more money, they will also do it. Also, digital only helps them to avoid leaks, like Mario
but
Wonder
like
getting
the
leaked.
PS5 digital is still backwards compatible digitally. So the backwards compatible part's just the part that doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand. Like, if you want to release a digital only model, that's fine. But why make it not backwards compatible? Why would anybody want that? Now it's digital only and it's not backwards compatible? Like, that just seems like a hard sell. Like, unless they just don't want to sell that version, they want to sell the main version. But why even do that? That's just, there's no reason. Just sell a really good version. Be less confusing. If you want a digital version, that's fine. I just don't agree with the backwards compatible thing. Because the digital
Brandon,
thing makes sense to market. Like, you can market that really easily. Like, oh, this is the digital only Switch.
do you remember the rumor we discussed last week?
Yeah. The one about it being digital only, being $450, and then the digital only would be $400.
Yeah, the physical version
for $450.
digital only for 400.
Yeah. That I could see more than this. And that I don't even think is a great idea, but it's kind of how the industry's going, so I could see Nintendo doing that because the industry's headed that way.
I'm just saying that the rumors line up a little bit.
Yeah, but I think this one is dumb. I'm not even saying whether or not I agree that the rumor is correct. I'm just saying that if this happens, that is a horrible thing to happen.
Sure. And the thing is, Nintendo could do it.
They could, but I'm just saying it would be stupid.
Well, let me ask you a question. How did you feel about Switch Lite before it came out? It's a Switch. They can't play all Switch games. Can't be docked ever. Has no hope of ever being docked. And it doesn't have Joy-Cons. Huh?
Significantly cheaper. And it plays to a market that only wants to play in handheld mode. Like, if there was a version of the Switch that couldn't undock, I would also be excited for that. Like, just a home console only version of Switch, I would buy that.
Okay, all right, but you said it's significantly cheaper. So what if Nintendo announces the pricing for these two different models? Switch to digital only, without backwards compatibility, $300. And then switch to physical with backwards compatibility is $400.
I think that would people would not be happy. I'm not saying it wouldn't sell. Like, people would buy it because they would want to play the games, right? But it would, that would suck. People would literally only buy it because that would be the only choice. They'd be like, well, this is what I can afford. Sucks. I hate it, but this is what I can afford. So I guess this is what I have to deal with.
So what if it ends up being the case that you still get all your digital games?
Well, that's fine. If it's backwards compatible digitally, then that's all A-okay. It's just like a PS5 digital. Then my only thing is the backwards compatibility. If I can't play my Switch games on my Switch 2, like, that just really stops me from wanting to upgrade, to be honest, to that version specifically. Like, I would just pay the extra money.
Yeah.
I would just wait until I could afford the new model, and if I couldn't afford that model, I probably just wouldn't buy it. I'd be like, okay, I'll just keep playing my Switch games. There's still more Switch games I haven't played. That, I think, is how the average user would feel.
Yeah, I think it's weird. I think for me, I'm just gonna buy the most expensive version and just not worry about it.
Of course. I mean, same, but that's just That's just us.
Some people may like the opportunity to save some money, and be like, "Hey, I already have my Switch," or they just never cared for Switch and they just get this. I understand your point. It's not that Nintendo wouldn't be offering a cheaper version, because they could do a digital only and it would still be cheaper. But
it's just a weird decision, because if they make a digital only that is backwards compatible, that sounds like a good buy.
So, I mean, really, basically what we're talking about here is it would be a decision that Nintendo would make, because if there's a digital only and then obviously a one that takes physical cartridges, then that's not too different from what this rumor is suggesting. The only difference is that Nintendo allows you to download games from your Nintendo account versus not allowing you to do so. Because the system already has the internals to run the game, then it can do it. It's just Nintendo deciding to allow it or not, which is, might as well be like the flick of a switch or the flick of a few lines of code or what have you, that
Yeah.
behind closed doors somewhere.
Unless there's some kind of bespoke Switch chip on the Switch 2 on the more expensive model, but I don't think they would go that hard for it. I think they would probably just figure out some software solution. I think it would be too expensive with how expensive I think the Switch 2 is already going to be, to then include like a whole other chip that's like the Switch as well. I think that would be kind of insane.
I mean,
even for a more expensive model.
What if Nintendo's trying to do it because they want to find a way to hit the mass market value, but also they want to kind of have a feature that makes it feel like more of a meaningful difference between the two? And I'll throw out another. I'll let you handle that one first, and I'll throw out another angle.
I think the only way I would find it acceptable is if their solution to backwards compatibility had to be some sort of hardware, like they did with the Wii, and the GameCube. Like they essentially like had a GameCube inside the Wii that booted up, so you like booted up. And the same with like the Wii U to Wii, like you booted up into Wii mode, like you booted up into a separate OS that was on the system. If they did that, then maybe I could see why it would be more expensive, but I think that would just be a dumb route to take. I don't think they need to do that. I'm sure NVIDIA can figure out something in software to make it work.
Okay.
Or just build hardware into the Switch into the Switch 2 version of the chip to ensure backwards compatibility. Like you don't need a whole separate chip. Just add, I don't know, man. It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah. Here's the other angle I'm going to throw out at you. What if the solution for the backwards compatibility is that they have just like another chip in there, so the Switch 2 is literally needs to be bigger?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like that's the only situation where I could see them actually needing to have a separate, like, oh, this version is digital only and it doesn't include, just for cost reduction purposes, so they could get it down to a cheaper price. But I don't think that's the solution they're going to go for either model. I think the chipset's just going to be backwards compatible chipset. I think they've had all this time to do it, so why would they not have done that?
Yeah.
They've known about Switch 2 pretty much right after Switch. It was pretty obvious from the get-go that Switch was a banger and they were going to do another one. They already had a 10-year contract with NVIDIA. I'm sure they were working on this since like 2018 or even before.
You know what? So, Brandon, this is just an interesting thought before we move on to some Q&A. What if the 10-year plan with NVIDIA was just for Switch, and when Nintendo announces their next system, it is not with NVIDIA? Because technically, they could still support Switch until 2027. There's your 10-year plan.
Yeah, but there's no reason for them to, because NVIDIA just has better technology and bigger budget. Like, they're just the bigger company. Like, AMD is like the little...
Yeah, no,
they're the common guy trying to fight the tech giant that is NVIDIA. There's absolutely no reason for them to switch.
I agree.
But negatives for them.
It's interesting that Nintendo has only started to partner with NVIDIA now for this generation. I think they were always partnered with AMD before, right?
I'm not sure. I know that Xbox and PlayStation have both worked with NVIDIA before. I believe both in the same generation. I believe both the PS3 and the 360 were made by NVIDIA, and I think the original Xbox was also made by NVIDIA, I believe. But then after that, they switched to AMD, and they've just been AMD ever since, I think. It was such a bad... it was really unfortunate that PS3 and the 360 generation, what happened with those chipsets, and they just kind of never went back to NVIDIA.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting because, with how successful the Switch has been, I'm sure NVIDIA doesn't want to move away from from this, and I think
No.
Nintendo's probably also happy with the partnership. So
I'm
I think
sure.
it's mutual.
I think Nvidia is going to be like their technologies, like DLSS, and their ray tracing performance. It's going to allow the Switch to be everything it's going to be, and allow it to actually perform up to next generation standards like we want it to.
Don't get me
An
excited.
AMD, like an AMD machine, couldn't do that.
Don't get me
Straight up.
excited. Don't do it. Don't do it. I mean, I guess since we're still talking about Switch 2, I will bring up that the deal between Microsoft and Activision has gone through.
Oh, yeah.
So that
Call
10-year
of Duty
deal that
will be on
Nintendo
Switch 2.
preemptively signed. Yep.
I
Call of
100%
Duty's
believe
coming.
the next Call of Duty, like next November. I think they usually launch in November, right? Or October. I don't know. Whenever they launch this next year, I think the Switch 2 will probably be out by then, and it will launch day and date on that system.
Yeah, I agree. I think next year you can look forward to Call of Duty on Switch 2. The bigger question to ask is, will it be on Switch 1? That's what I'm very curious on, because even if Switch 2 is coming out next year, which I totally believe is happening, Switch 1 I also think is going to be supported for a little while. Will it get Call of Duty? That's a
If
lot
it
of people out
does,
there.
it's not going to be a version I ever want to play.
What if it's?
I
What
don't
if
think
what
it will
they
be
do?
60 FPS.
What if they don't put a new one? They just put out like a remaster of like Black Ops 2 or something.
That'd be fine. I'd be happy.
I'm telling you right now,
It'd be good.
if they
It'd be a much better
remastered
option.
Black Ops 2, I would probably buy it because I really enjoyed. Well, I really enjoyed the multiplayer in the maps. Like I really enjoyed that. I also really like that particular version of Zombies was very good. So if they remastered it for
I
Switch,
think it would be
pretty sweet.
I think it'd be a waste of development resources to do anything but a remaster of an older Call of Duty, because you're not gonna do like Modern Warfare 2019, right? Because that's not old enough to be like a classic game, and it's not new enough to be modern.
Is.
What?
The game from 2012 certainly is.
Oh yeah.
It would be by next year. It'd be 12 years.
Oh, for sure.
12 years since 2012. That's crazy.
For sure. But I like trying to do. It's not gonna be Modern Warfare 3 that's going out this year. But trying to actually do like the next Call of Duty game on the original Switch, it's just a waste of development efforts. Just put it on Switch 2, and give us something else on Switch 1, if anything, like a port of an old game, remaster.
I hear you.
Whatever you want.
So I'm going to extend this. Should I extend it? Should I wait?
Don't know what you're referring to.
I know. I'm gonna wait. I know I said I would, so I'm sorry. I will talk about it briefly soon. I'm just referring to the video I made today, talking about Monolith Soft project.
Oh yeah,
because I think it is Switch. I think it's Switch 2 relevant. Since we're talking about Switch 2,
sure.
I should talk about it now. But I think it might be a nice closing discussion for tonight's show. So I'll save it. I apologize for teasing it so soon. But I do want to get to the chat for a little bit, and then we'll talk about Peach, and then we'll get to that little topic as well that I just decided to add randomly now. So to the chat, I see that Taker with another super chat. Thank you very much for that super chat. Taker 610. How is DS to 3DS backwards compatibility handled?
I believe also with bespoke hardware. I think it had another chip in it that it booted into.
I was gonna just say literally, well, yeah, you shoved in the DS.
Oh, yeah, that's just for media though. That's not for how they actually ran the games.
Like what? I don't know.
I don't think they emulated them. That would have been too. I don't think it. I think they probably just had a bespoke chip, but I'm just speculating.
Like both chips in there?
Yeah.
All right, so so this is what I Googled. Did 3DS emulate DS? And the top Google response comes up is, forgive me if this is nonsense. I'm just reading the first thing that pops up.
Cool.
Actually, 3DS literally has the DS chip in there, an ARM 9 chip, while 3DS uses a separate ARM. That makes more that I remember something like that.
So it is a
It
bespoke
uses a
chip.
separate
Gotcha.
ARM11 dual core chip. The only purpose for the RM9 seems to be for the DS backwards compatibility. That that rings a few bells.
Separate chip.
Yeah. So
there's
there
essentially
you
a
go.
DS inside your 3DS. It's
Makes
the
sense.
same for how they handled the Wii and the Wii U, so it's not surprising.
Yeah, the difference is that. Yeah, I remember. If I might be misremembering, because I know with the DS, if you want to play Game Boy Advance games, it was two different. Like, it wasn't like you don't put them into the same slot.
No, it was a
They
second
show
slot.
up. Yeah, the DS had a second cartridge slot at the bottom, and your Game Boy Advance games, when you go in the home menu, you top the bottom. There was like be a bottom button for Game Boy Advance games,
You had to boot
which is
into
really
that.
interesting because they actually use that feature for not just backwards compatibility, but also for peripherals and the transferring of games as well. So, like for Pokemon, if you put in your Game Boy Advance cartridge of say like Fire Red, you'd be able to transfer over to Pokemon Pearl or Diamond, which is really neat.
That's cool.
But then also like they use it for peripherals as well. So when Metro Prime Pinball came out, they came out with a cartridge. You put it into your DS, and the cartridge gave your DS rumble.
Ooh,
it was very cool. It's just very interesting how they made that cartridge slot a multifaceted feature.
Yeah.
It wasn't just.
I mean, cartridges used to bring features to systems. I mean, back on the SNES, that was a big thing. Like, what chipset the card had determined like what features the game could even handle. So
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was called Yoshi Topsy Turvy on the Game Boy Advance. I think it had a gyroscope. So yeah,
there were different batteries and different things in certain cartridges.
I mean, heck, we go back to the Super Nintendo. The Star Fox had a special chip in there to give the SNES the ability to do 3D graphics.
Right.
Was not possible in the base hardware. The cartridge had additional hardware that made it possible, which is super interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty common on an SNES to have, like, as I was saying, like the cartridge kind of determines sort of what the graphical feature set is possible on the system, which is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That ain't happening now.
Not nowadays. No. It's a much simpler.
No.
Much simpler development environment, for sure.
Yeah. All right, got another super chat here from Samuel Talks About Games, and then we're going to move on to our next topic. Thank you for the super chat, Samuel. Samuel asks, where do you think Nintendo Switch Online heads with Switch 2? There's not many more systems they can add without cannibalizing sales of their remasters. I think that's a good point. Features. I think a lot of people are clamoring for GameCube Switch Online, but I don't see that happening. Why would Nintendo ruin this cash cow they have?
I think Nintendo's actually going to improve the online itself. I think there will be voice chat with Switch 2. I think one of the biggest reasons there isn't voice chat on the original Switch is, one, they wanted the OS to be light, but I think more importantly, and it's the reason Bluetooth audio wasn't added till so much later, the Bluetooth on Switch sucks. Like, it's garbage. Like, actually handling audio through that with like a mic and the game audio is not good. Like, it's absolute. I don't even want to say it on stream what it is.
That a couple days ago, I synced up some Bluetooth earbuds, and there was latency problems.
Ugh.
It's like I was playing Tears of the Kingdom. I would run, and then 2 seconds later, I would hear his footsteps.
You can put the controller like slightly behind your knee, and it like starts disconnecting randomly.
That happens too. So when I'm playing with the Joy-Cons inside the grip, because that's like a much smaller controller than a Pro Controller, so my hands kind of like cover it. There'll be times where if I'm playing, like, let's say with friends, like, then that would be the only reason I would be using the Joy-Con. Well, no, sometimes I use it if my controller's dead, but more often than not, I'm using it because I'm playing with friends and I'm letting them use a better controller, right? Because I'm such a nice guy.
Such a nice guy.
Yeah. But I'll cover it in like the heat of the moment, and then there'll be like a lapse in connection. So like I'll be like, jump, and then I just fall off and die and smash. So it would, that's happened. Yes, I agree. I think they should definitely improve the Bluetooth for sure.
Yeah, and I think that will allow for voice chat. Maybe even we'll get a Discord integration. I would love that.
That
You
would be
can
sick.
use Discord on your Xbox. I play a lot of Call of Duty and Halo with my younger brother, and he's on Xbox, and we just talk through Discord.
Yeah, I will to kind of go back specifically to the question though, right? Because I mean, you're arguing that Nintendo should just work on the online overall. Um,
Yeah.
in terms of Nintendo Switch Online, uh, I don't think they'll stop coming up with ways to add value.
No.
I just don't think it's going to be GameCube. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe they do add GameCube on like that. That
I
if they
think they
did
could add
that,
GameCube.
they could. They are doing a lot of remasters for GameCube right now, so maybe they wait a little while, or maybe they just don't. I'll say that if I'm not saying it can't happen, but I'm saying if it does happen, I'll be surprised. I'll be pleasantly surprised, but I will be surprised. That said, though, why can't they add like Dreamcast for example? I mean, if they add Dreamcast, people are gonna be asking questions about GameCube. So well,
Going
but
real hard
maybe
in the
what
Sega
happens
integration.
maybe they wait a couple of years though, right? Maybe they kind of use the next few years to kind of help the transition over to get to a lot of GameCube remasters. And once like 4 or 5 years pass, then they're like, hey, here's GameCube on Switch Online, right? And they introduce games that weren't ever remastered, like maybe
Yeah,
Waverly Snowstorm, for example.
I don't
Like
think they
that's
need to
probably not
add
gonna get remade
like anything
remade
major, like a whole
remastered.
new system or anything at launch. Just add more online features. I think this is the biggest thing. Like I'm
There's
paying for online. Like the other features are just bonuses. Give me good online as a base, so I can feel good about paying for this service.
yeah, I hear you. Um, I'm still thinking about content though. I
Fair.
think if like Nintendo introduced Tetris 99, not Tetris 99. As there's a fly like on the like it's like going back and forth to my face. It's distracting me. I don't want to kill it, but I also am annoyed by it.
Kill
Leave.
it.
Go
Kill it.
away.
Kill it.
I am not a murderer. That is
It's a
a
fly.
lie. I have killed insects before, and sometimes I feel bad. Sometimes. Anyway, this damn fly. Oh my god.
It's you don't want to murder it, but it's coming into your territory.
Yeah, it's invasive. It's becoming a
You gotta
problem.
do it for the podcast. It's just what has to be done.
I almost feel worse murdering an insect on camera. Like it just makes it worse. I think it gave up. It's not bothering me anymore. Maybe it heard me threatening it, so it
He was
left.
like,
Uh,
gotta get out of his
yeah. Oh,
domain.
where was I? Um, right. So I was gonna say F-Zero 99, not Tetris
Mm,
99. Like that was cool. I think Nintendo should add more like Nintendo like games that are for free. Like maybe
Star
they like
Fox
it's
99.
not I think they don't do it enough. Like I think they definitely need to do it more. That would probably go a long way. Cause like what you're right. What if they did do a Star Fox 99? Um and they kind of just go back and make like I really like the idea of them going back and repurposing old games. And it doesn't even
Mm,
have to be the 99 thing. Like what if they kind of go beyond just like that sort of motif? Like that can still be something that they go back to, but just like incorporate ideas that to remix old games to make them feel new. So yeah, we talked about the other day like a Star Fox 99 where it's like 99 different people duking out in Star Fox. But maybe
yeah.
6 months later they release something else. It's kind of like I'm trying to come up with a new idea on the spot. Um, you know what? Mother 3. Maybe Mother 3 like that's never been
Ooh,
like they
be
a
nice.
localized HD widescreen version of Mother 3, and that's for exclusive for Switch Online members. Maybe another 6 months later, it's kind of like a remastered version of Star Fox 2, which never released
Yeah,
until
never
the
happened.
SNES Classic. So those are some ideas.
Stuck on
Uh,
that system. They should
Yeah, I'm still trying to think of like a
Release it.
random new game idea that would be kind of repurposing an
Kirby
old game.
99.
No, but not a 99. But like not a 99.
I don't know. I give up. 99 was my easy go-to.
Donkey Konga 3. That might as well just be a new game.
Yeah, probably.
Probably. Yeah. But I mean, case by case basis. The main point is simply if they have some sort of online kind of game that, you know, if they could kind of bring in more of an audience, like do that more often. I mean, I feel like I should come up with at least one. If I can come up with at least one on the spot, that sends a message that Nintendo can do.
That it's a kid idea.
Then Nintendo can do it. I'm stealing Captain Doge's idea. A Zelda 4 Swords like game. Thank you.
Ooh,
there's one.
Yes.
But I didn't come up with it, so I still got to come up with another one.
I mean, if you want to just go with that, like a Metroid Prime, like action, like don't give us a shooter like a multiplayer in Prime 4. Give us a separate Prime multiplayer game
really
built
ambitious.
just for the online.
That sounds super ambitious, though.
And awesome.
I know, but for free?
Yeah.
Not for free.
It's essentially be for free, right? Along with Metroid Prime 4. So we're only expecting you to get a single player game with that, so it's essentially like a free add-on to that game.
But Metroid Prime 4 is gonna be a super ambitious thing. I don't.
Yeah, but people will play the online for free. In fact, a ton of games. In fact, even Halo Infinite, online's free. There's a lot of games that have the online multiplayer free, and then the campaign you charge. But I think it could work. It gets more people interested because they play the free online, right? And then they're like, "Ooh, what's this campaign they keep telling me about? I'm gonna go pick that up, see what that's all about."
I don't know how I feel about this. I'm not saying you're not making a semi-valid point. It depends on how Nintendo handles it, and I don't think they're gonna do that. But I mean, you know,
they could market.
What if they do? Yeah,
and it could sell the online. It's just another game to like.
Does it come out at the same time? Or does it come out 6 months later?
I don't know. I haven't thought through that much.
Well, that matters. It matters a lot. So I don't know. No. I'm gonna say no. But okay, all right. I got one for you. They remaster Federation Force, and that's on Switch Online.
You get that for free. Interesting.
Yeah. That's like because it's a very multiplayer centric kind of game. Better that.
I feel like if you're gonna, you need to like remake that game. Like there's no remastering.
I think we're in the wrong track of the kind of games that would be Nintendo would add to Switch Online. Like it's too much. You have to go something older. So
that would basically be a new game.
All right, I got
you
one.
Want to actually sell Federation?
You ready? You ready?
Yeah.
Custom Robo. Bring back Custom Robo. But it's a GameCube game. So it was a similar simple GameCube game. I think at one point it was planned for N64. But you make that online and you put that on NSO. That's something. Something. To me, that feels more believable than having Metroid Prime 4 have an entirely dedicated, epic, ambitious online mode that is for free for Switch Online members.
It wouldn't be related to Prime 4 necessarily. It would just be a Metroid multiplayer thing. It doesn't even have to be.
Maybe Metroid Prime Hunters. Metroid Prime. If you want to do that, Metroid Prime Hunters upscaled.
Yeah, that could work.
That would work.
Or a new Hunters game, and it doesn't have to be that ambitious. It just doesn't. It doesn't have to be repurposed content, but it doesn't have to be super ambitious new content either.
I mean, like F-099, like it looks nice, but it's based off a 16-bit game, right? So, you know, if you do something like DS, like it's old enough to where like it can kind of go for like a simplistic polygonal style, but still look kind of good.
Hmm.
Yeah. think those are options. But yeah, I mean, I still agree. Ultimately, going back to the question, I do agree with Brandon that I think Nintendo should just think of other ways to improve the online, but also still be thinking about how they can add content as well, because I think the content is important. DLC is important. Maybe I don't know.
I think GameCube has to come eventually, right? Like, there will be a day when we have GameCube backwards compatibility. Like, we don't know if that day will be during the Switch 2's life, but I'm sure there will come a day, right?
I also think it wouldn't just be GameCube. I think it'd be Wii as well. They're basically the same thing.
I think they would just separate it just to keep things spaced out.
Sure, but no. Like, you know, when Game Boy Advance was announced,
I mean, there's literally nothing stopping them from doing GameCube, Wii,
I think
all that on Switch
there
right
would
now.
be a separation, but I get well, that is true, right? Like you look at Pikmin 1 and 2, how much work was honestly put into that?
It's basically just an emulated.
But Nintendo was able to get away with selling those and making more money than if they would just put them on NSL.
They literally could just use the emulator they use for like that port and just have Wii games and by extension GameCube games on to Switch right now if they wanted to. So it's just really all about their marketing with their remasters and remakes and how much money they think they can get out of each individual game. So I think they view GameCube games and Wii games as worth more for some reason. They're like more complex, I guess.
Yep.
Better for remakes and remasters. Easier, at least.
I mean, Thousand Year Door is your most hyped game of next year.
True, but that's a whole remake, right? So that's not exactly easy. Like, that requires the same amount of effort as if it was an N64, GameCube, whatever. It doesn't matter what console it came from initially.
I understand. But, you know, it's easier to make Thousand Year Door than it is to make an entire new game. So,
right.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I'm not saying we'll never get GameCube, but I'm not expecting it anytime soon, personally.
I'm not expecting to add a new system in general anytime soon.
Yeah. But let's move on. All right, so next topic. This is about the changes to Princess Peach Showtime.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to pull up the tweet that I kind of talked about in my video. So the tweet I'm using is from No Context Super Mario. This tweet kind of I got over 8 million views. So I would say that's fairly viral.
That's a lot of views.
Yeah, I'm gonna share it with you guys. We're gonna kind of just compare the images and talk a little bit about it. So give me a moment here. Share screen. Okay, so these are the two images. Let me just click on it. Can you see this, Brandon?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, you were quiet for a second. I got nervous.
I just accidentally had the mic muted.
Oh, all right. So this is the original key art for Princess Peach Showtime. And this is the new key art for Princess Peach Showtime. Can you spot the differences, Brandon?
Yes. Well, yes, because I've already seen them. But even before I did, obviously she's making a different face, 2 different faces, in fact.
Yeah. Look at the old one. It's a very plain looking face. It's kind of like the same expression. Like she's just smiling with her eye wide open, and the eyes are just kind of looking in a particular direction.
They're just looking, yeah.
Yeah, but then over here, like she's got more depth to her face.
She's got more like confident expression almost.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just more going on there. And here, like, this is like a hi-ya kick face. Like, this makes sense. Like, this is, you know, like a traditional like martial artist would make a face kind of like
Reminds
this.
Me
like,
of
obviously
my older
it's expressive,
sister.
But well, there you go. And so there's actually, what's interesting about this is that there was actually some controversy that arose from this. Some people did not like that they made these changes to the face. I
disagree.
Yeah, I mean, I also disagree. You know, I'm not going to say that their opinion doesn't mean anything.
No,
but
of course not.
You know, I just to me, this looks very plain.
Very
There's
kind
not
of
as
generic almost.
like I'll say that, you know, I didn't realize that it needed it. I didn't think much of
Her
it.
eyes look like flat in that key art. Like a lot of her face just looks a lot more flat in general than the new one. Like
Yeah,
their
like
eyes are very
this just
flat.
feels like more of a character that I care about. Like this feels like like a character that has actual like personality and feelings. This almost looks a little soulless.
Yeah,
If
there's like
that makes any sense.
hardly any shading on her face. There's
So
hardly any depth to her face at all in that image.
let me see if I can verbalize this correctly. When I look at this face, what I get is like she's a robot that's just made to look
Gives me
happy.
the
It
kind of
doesn't have any
same
other
feelings I
emotions.
do when I see her in like the 2D games, just like generic. Like I'm Princess Peach. I'm happy because I'm a princess. Yay! Nothing much
Yeah.
beyond that.
But here I'm like, okay, this is like a character. Like this is a character that has her own personality and thoughts. Like she makes actions. Like I just find this more interesting. And
Yeah.
what I like about it is that Princess Peach Showtime, like I'm actually interested in this game. Like I actually want to play this game.
Yeah.
Like she has these different things that these four are not the only things she does. Like she does different things in the different levels. And there's variety to the gameplay, and it looks fun. And she's taking on different roles
so much, and just the fact that it's got so much different level of variety and things.
That's an interesting point. Something that occurred to me while I was making the video that when I talked about this earlier last week, is that this is all on stage. Like the idea of Princess Peach Showtime, it's like on a theater, right? Like so it's taking place exactly. It's like a play. So her expression,
which Mario has done before.
Yes, I mean look Paper Mario for example. But
and I believe Mario 3. One of the 2D Marios is a play.
Yes, you're correct. I wonder if it's 2.
I think it's 3.
You might be right. I'm like now.
I mean, it might be 2 and 3, but I know it's not 2 that I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Regardless, though, the point I want to make is just that with it being Showtime on stage, theater, I think there's more reason to have more expression. Like this idea that it's just kind of plain. Like when you're on a stage, you're supposed to show expression. Like it's you're trying to represent feelings. And if anything, when you're on stage, it's supposed to be exaggerated or pronounced so it's more visible to the audience. So I'm just kind of saying with this idea of Showtime theater and us seeing this change where Peach is being more expressive, from that perspective, it makes sense. Never mind the fact that it simply just gives her more character overall, which I think is meaningful if she's going to be the main character of this game.
I'm just absolutely, honestly shocked that this is something that is even being discussed as like a big thing. I think it's a nice, subtle change to the artwork, and that's about it. Like that's as far as it goes. I don't understand exactly how it got to be like an actual talking point. Like I saw it trending on Twitter.
It was trending on Twitter, right?
It's weird.
People
like,
talk
why
about
are people so obsessed with how? Like, is it because she's a woman? Like, I don't know. Are they just like obsessed with? I don't know, man.
Everyone
think it's just
has
the internet,
different
man.
opinions and agendas and motives and politics and all that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I appreciate the change.
Yeah.
I also will give it to you that if people weren't talking about it, we might not even be talking about it.
No.
But I will say because people were talking about it, it got me thinking about it. Like, hey, I actually like this change. I think it says good things about the game.
And I think that's all it should be. It shouldn't go beyond that. In my opinion, I think that's all it is.
Yeah, I mean, if you hate it, I'm sorry you hate it, but this is the direction Nintendo's going in. So it is what it is. And I will say, like they point out here, like even the Japanese version, it has the update, so it's not like this is not like a localization change or anything like that.
Treehouse didn't step in and ruin your game.
Nope, this is just what it is. But Yep. Princess Peach Showtime coming out March.
Hyped, bro. Hyped.
I
Honestly,
am.
more hyped for that than Wonder. A little bit. I'm still very hyped for Wonder, but Princess Peach Showtime like that intrigues me. Just because of how much like Kirby's Forgotten Land really came out and it just like surprised me, and Luigi's Mansion 3 with how amazing those games were. Like those are some of my favorite games, like period, like that have come out in recent times. And so I think this is looking to be of the similar
Why do
kind
you
of quality.
mention Kirby's Forgotten Land and Luigi's Mansion in the same vein as this game? Like, what is it about those games that reminds you of
Both
this?
of those games remind me of this in different ways.
Okay.
Kirby mainly because like you kind of do a lot of different transformations in Kirby, and also there's a lot of different like level design. Like each level has like different gimmicks constantly throughout it. And then Luigi's Mansion just because the way the honestly it looks like it's made by the same guys. Like the way the animation is and the art and the general like very very high visual presentation. Um, yeah, it's just different aspects of both of those games. But at the general quality levels, I think it also reminds me just how polished it looks.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think they all look like very, very, very polished games. So I am excited for it. But I did say I would talk about another topic before
Yes.
we close out. So I'm going
The
to get to this
secret
next
final
topic here.
topic. That's
Secret
not so
final
secret.
topic. Not really that much of a secret. So I'm going to talk about this for a little bit, and then we'll close out with some Q&A. So, guys, if you have any cool questions or anything you want to point out to me, start adding me, sending me messages, and I will try and get to them before we close out. Brian has to get up early, so we aren't going to have a long show tonight, but we'll go on for a little bit. So this is not. I guess I'll have to edit on the fly here because I didn't even have a. Just say.
Can add the title.
I'm gonna add the title. Yeah. All right. I'm just calling it Secret Nintendo Project. Lex said secret final topic before I said Secret Nintendo Project. It's a very, very similar titling. But yes, so basically it's just a topic of the video that I talked about today. It's been something I've been kind of sitting on for a while that I wanted to talk about, and I just decided to talk about today. So it has to do with this game that I believe is in the works. The reason I believe it's in the works is because when I look at Monolith Soft's website, they're still hiring.
They say it's in the works.
That's it. I'll show you. I'll literally just show you.
All the receipts.
Yeah. Let's see here. It's not this tweet. Give me a second. Let me pull it up first before I share. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to first go to the beginning. All right, here we go. All right, so let me share now. All right. All right. So this is Monolith Soft's website. They got a whole bunch of things here, right? And it's something I want to point out. I know not all of you are Xenoblade fans. Some of you are, some of you are not. But I just want to point out that Monolith Soft doesn't just make Xenoblade. They have several studios, and they're kind of like the glue that holds Nintendo together. They helped out with Tears of the Kingdom. They helped out with Splatoon 3. They helped out with Animal Crossing New Horizons. And even before that, Splatoon 2 and Breath of the Wild. So never mind all the other games beforehand, which is still a lot.
Yeah. Several Zelda games beforehand even.
Yeah, but with the Switch era, they have had a hand in Breath of the Wild, Splatoon 2, then Xenoblade 2, then Torn to the Golden Country, Animal Crossing, here's future redeemed. So that was mentioned. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games. If you want to look at it like that. This didn't get a physical release, but still, they've done all this stuff. They've had a hand in it. They have been such a big part of Nintendo's production.
Huge.
They're a big deal.
One of my favorite studios.
Yes. Now, I'm not saying Monolith Soft is the main team behind Tears of the Kingdom or the main team behind Splatoon 3 or Animal Crossing. They're not the main team. They're a support team for these other 3 main Nintendo franchises. But they've also been making these giant, massive, semi-open RPGs throughout the Switch era on top of helping out with these other major games. So they're amazing, is the main point here. But when you go to their recruiting page, yeah, they were making hires in 2022. Like whenever they have hires, they have notices. And here's one for this game. They still have this up. They never like got rid of this.
We've known about since 2017 or 2018?
2017. Now, the reason why I think it matters that they haven't gotten rid of this, because maybe they're just using it to advertise. But the advertisement, I don't have this translated, but there are articles that are sourced in the video on the translations. Initially was talking about this damn fly came back. All right. Anyways, the fly is the Nintendo spy. It's like, shut up. Don't you talk about this project.
The Nintendo ninjas are finding new ways. Information.
Yeah. It won't stop. I think it's because of the moisturizer I have in my face.
It's probably because of the carbon dioxide you're breathing out.
Maybe, I don't know. Anyways, it gave up.
It's usually what attracts bugs.
Back to the point. The initial hire, there were hirings for a project where they were looking for talent to work on a fantasy medieval game with responsive combat and improvements to enemy AI. And there was also hirings for an online game that would also be fantasy medieval as well. These are for 2017. And it still hasn't been shown. But they still have these job listings up. So to me, that suggests that they're still working on it. We haven't seen this. So
nope. No hide nor hair of it.
We haven't seen we've seen, yes, Xenoblade is fantasy, but it's not medieval.
No, it's like sci-fi.
Yeah. But also the hirings talk about online. We haven't seen an online-centric Monolith Soft game. Now, they did help out with Splatoon 3, so maybe you could say, oh, well, that's they helped out with Splatoon. That's why they wanted someone to help with online. But the online listings were for a fantasy medieval game. Splatoon 3 is not that either. But also, the hirings talked about having responsive combat, like real-time combat, something quick, not like what the Xenoblade games are, and an improvement to enemy AI. To me, and I kind of talked about this in the video, to me, it feels like they were looking for like talent to like put together like a game where there's like legitimate sword fighting, and there's like you're fighting against another enemy that has an artificial intelligence that can react in kind. And I kind of like threw out Dark Souls as like a comparison, because in Dark Souls there's a little more thought put into the combat, and it does have a very medieval like theme. So that's kind of like the idea of what these hirings are for, the kind of game they were looking to make, and we haven't seen that from them yet. And this is still up. Right. They're still using this to advertise something.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to advertise for a type of game you're no longer creating. Like, if you're not creating this type of game anymore, like at the very least, like it may not be this exact vision they had at this time, but it seems like it's similar enough vision to where this still applies. Otherwise, why not change it? Like, why not update it? Why would you want to mislead your hires and be like, oh, well, actually, we're not making a game like that at all. We're just have that up on our website. My bad.
Yeah, it's kind of like when we go to Retro Studios, they show something else, right? Like can I pull it up here? If you go to Retro Studios website, Brian, let me know if it shows up, because sometimes I'm not sure how these screen shares work exactly.
I see Google.
Okay, great. I'm trying to go to Retro Studios website. can't find it.
I see.
Where's Retro Studios' website?
It's not the top one right there?
Okay, it didn't have a logo. So I got confused.
It's
When
an
you
old
go to
site.
Yeah, when you go to careers, you know, like they show this. They show Samus. So you can see Samus, right?
Yeah, I can see this.
Yeah, like they're advertising Metroid Prime 4 still because they're working on Metroid Prime 4. Yes, they're using it to advertise, but it's because it's not false promotion. It's because they want you on the team that's making this, right? So when you go to Monolith Soft, and you know they're like, I don't. This is still here. So I do think this is still in the works. Monolith Soft has several different studios that have been working on things. We do know that they want to. Takahashi has talked about how the Xenoblade has reached kind of like an end, and not in the sense that I think I can stop sharing this now. But it's not so much that Xenoblade is done for good, but the current story of Xenoblade has reached kind of like a certain sense of finality. So when they bring back Xenoblade, it's gonna be kind of like a new beginning for the series, if that makes any sense. So, like the whole Klaus arc, like that storyline, they're done with that. My point being that if there's a time to finally get into this new IP, I think it might be early on to Switch 2 life cycle, and also might be an opportunity for Monolith Soft to perhaps really catch a new audience with this game. And you know, like what this game actually ends up being is hard to say, but I can only imagine what might be possible if this game was made with Switch 2 in mind.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be so impressive. I mean, I already look at Xenoblade 3 and I'm like, wow, can't believe that even runs on the Switch. It looks so great, especially in a lot of the cutscenes. It looks absolutely incredible, and the DLC looks even better than the base game. So I'm really curious to see. I do think within the first calendar year, or the first like 12 months, I guess, of after release of the Switch 2, we'll see something from Monolith Soft, whether that's this game or something else. I do think we'll see a Monolith Soft release title within the first 12 months of Switch 2.
Maybe. I'm not ready to say 12 months, but I think in the first couple years. Like
I think they'll have something pretty close to launch.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
Year of it being out.
But I think
they did with Switch. You know, it worked out well.
I'm just trying to be safe. I think by the end of 2025, there's a great chance we'll see the next Monolith Soft game come out.
I mean, they do come out with games pretty often.
Right, exactly. That's the point I wanted to make. So we look at just like just for Switch, right? So 20, not counting Tears of the Kingdom, Splatoon, or Animal Crossing, but just like not the games that they helped out with, but the games that they are the sole developers for. It was entirely Xenoblade, right? So Xenoblade 2 came out 2017. Then in early 2020, so 2.5 years later, they released Xenoblade Chronicles, the definitive edition. No, I mean that's correct, but there's Torn of the Golden Country in between. So it was Xenoblade Chronicles 2, holiday 2017. Then summer 2018, they released Torn of the Golden Country, which was a DLC, but it basically was its own kind of like mini RPG. It was like a 30 to 40 hour experience you could play on your own. So it was its own game. Then in 2020, around summertime, close to summertime, they released Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. So that was, 2.5 years removed from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, 2 years removed from Torn of the Golden Country. And then Xenoblade Chronicles 3 came out summer 2022, if I'm not mistaken. No, that's correct. So that's 2 years after Definitive Edition, right? So we're kind of seeing like every 2 to 2.5 years a major project come out.
3 was out last year, so
2022, summer 2022.
So 2024, 2025 seems about right for a new game.
Like 2 to 2.5 years. Yeah, so if it doesn't,
it depends. Right, I'm thinking this is going to come out probably like September or something. So Depending, it might come out earlier, so maybe a little bit outside the 12-month window.
It may
But
be
by
the
the
case
end of
that the game will be
2025, I think.
the game might be done, but then they may kind of sit on it just because Nintendo may have a series of games to come out with once Switch 2 launches, and that just may be one of them.
Potentially, but I mean, I don't know, because Monolith Soft just releases so many games. I don't see why they wouldn't release one really soon, like by the end of 2025. I mean, they could sit on it if they need to. Maybe they have a bunch of other games ready, but I don't know. I feel like those are major projects that can be like headline releases at any time of the year. It's hard to say. I don't know. I do expect, though. I'm just gonna say I expect there to be a Monolith Soft game out by the end of 2025.
I agree. That's like the late end. I think it could come out next year. I just think there's so many things that could come out next year, and we don't know exactly when Switch 2 is coming out. That might.
Yeah, I mean,
that's kind of tough to say with confidence, at least for me. But
that's
by
why I
the end
said
of
the first 12
think,
months, right?
Yeah.
So like it could be anywhere in that 12 months, which includes a lot of 2025, depending on when it released. In my mind, that's September to September 2024 to September 2025. In my mind.
Yeah. No, I mean, we'll see. But point is, it's gonna be. I think the idea behind it is it's going to be a big Nintendo game that's going to excite the core Nintendo fan base. There was some hirings that were for online stuff, and you look at Xenoblade Chronicles X, that had some very subtle MMO-like qualities. Like, what if they had a more? I'm not saying a full-on MMO because I kind of doubt they would do that, but
just maybe a squad of 4.
Yeah, like what if you could play the entire game like as a team of 4? Like you just look at the Xenoblade games and what they are, how you're already kind of running around as a team. Like what if your team was your own friends?
Yeah, and you have this huge open world to explore. It just makes sense.
And if the combat's like even more real time than what the current Xenoblade games are, where not only do you just have an auto attack, but it's like very responsive, like it is kind of like a Zelda or a Dark Souls like game,
right?
That would be really interesting to see. I mean, it's kind of like what Final Fantasy is right now. So,
I think
they might go in I don't want them to go in the same direction, but I mean, if it's meant to be like a side thing, like it's not meant to be a replacement for Xenoblade, just kind of like this is something else we do.
If it is a kind of multiplayer focused thing, it would be nice if like you took on roles that were like very vital, like really make the teamwork like be vitally experienced. Because I'm kind of tired of playing team-based games where you're just like doing your own thing, but also with somebody else. I would like something to be like very team-focused, but maybe they don't need to do something that.
Well, in Xenoblade, assuming they follow the framework of Xenoblade, which we don't know what they'll do, but in Xenoblade, you have roles. Or you have the healer, right? You have the tank that takes the aggro, the detention, and you have the attacker, right? It's kind of like a glass cannon. And everyone has to kind of play their role. So maybe they come up with a system where you have to do things to do that. When you do things to do that, you get rewards for it. Like maybe you build up your special meter more so, which is kind of how it works in the current Xenoblade games. But instead, they make it really exciting for when you build up your meter because it's a really cool attack that you can do only by serving your role properly.
They worked out a way to build up like a team gauge where like you guys
a chain attack.
A chain attack. But like imagine if like you guys all of a sudden like I'm just thinking like Xenoblade X, right? You're using mechs. And I'm thinking like Go Power Rangers, right? All your mechs go into one mech.
Fusion.
You do a little fusion dance, all your mechs combine, and then you're each controlling a different part of one giant mech for like this big attack. I think that would be really epic, and it would feel more of a team thing instead of just like, oh, I powered up my special on my own and did my own thing.
Be awesome. Yeah, I mean, basically, it's kind of like concepts that they've sort of done with the Xenoblade games already, but as an actual multiplayer game, like each person playing their role, and like it would be interesting to have some kind of team attack and maybe transformation where you have to kind of act in unison. You have to do things in sync. And the better you work as a team, the more effective the attack is.
Yeah.
Like, I think about Mario Kart Double Dash, which may seem odd to be brought up during this conversation, because how would a racing game relate to a fantasy medieval RPG that's online, or like how would that relate? I'm talking about the co-op aspect of Double Dash. Double Dash, you could have two people playing on one cart, and when you did certain things together, it had benefits. For example, if you both press the boost button at the perfect timing together, it was like an ultra boost to start. Like, whatever kind of good boost you've seen in Mario Kart, you haven't seen the best boost until you do it together in Mario Kart Double Dash. Or like, you're about to fall off a stage, so if you're the person on the back, you use your kind of punch attack to kind of shove yourself to the left or right so you don't fall off the cliff. Like, there's just different things that you get rewarded for in Double Dash by playing better as a team. So I'm just saying, it would be nice if they kind of built the game kind of around that concept of working as a team. The better you work as a team, the more cool combinations and attacks or whatever come together, and it just makes it more fun. And it would reward people for actually playing their role as opposed to just doing their own thing.
For sure. That sounds awesome.
It would be awesome. But let's close out now. So, guys, we're going to take a few questions to talk about a few more things, and then that'll be it. So, if there's anything you want to ask about, whether it be we just talked about, or something else in the discussion, or anything else Nintendo related, or not even necessarily Nintendo related, feel free to ask, and then we'll finish things up in a few minutes here. Let's see. Looking through the chat. See a lot of debating. A lot of debate. Let's see. Risky Academy. Andres Restart. Now that Sakurai is a free agent, will he join PlayStation Studios soon and make PlayStation 5 exclusive games? He could make PlayStation 5 exclusive games, but I don't think Sakurai is going to put himself in a position where he can't work for Nintendo anymore, because I think he enjoys having that freedom, but also enjoys partnering with Nintendo, because he usually does.
I think Sony's just not the kind of partner he would want. Like, Sony's really focused on extremely high budget, like movie-like productions nowadays. And I mean, like, I guess I could see a Kid Icarus game being like that, but I don't think the types of games Sakurai makes like need to be like these absolute monolithic type of games that Sony seems to be only interested in creating. I think they wouldn't give him the type of freedom to do a wacky, crazy idea like he wants. They would be more restrictive and try to get him to do something mainstream because the budgets would be so high.
Yeah,
for the
he has such a good relationship with Nintendo. Like, Nintendo, I think, basically is like, hey, you want to do this? We trust you. Have at it. Like, he has such a good relationship with them. It's hard for me to see Sakurai doing something where he can't work with Nintendo.
I just think it won't. I don't know if they wouldn't let him work with Nintendo if he worked with Sony. I don't know.
No, but if it's something that he has to dedicate all of his energies to for years.
Oh, right.
That's what I mean. Not like it would be an agreement where he can never work with Nintendo again.
Right.
Or maybe when you would do that, then Sakurai would say no.
I just don't think Sakurai like has a benefit to moving to a different company. I think he has literally anything he could want at Nintendo. Nobody's gonna give him better conditions, I think, than Nintendo. So I just don't see why he would. I think that's just probably how he sees it.
Yeah. Brandon, I'm seeing some people that are requesting to see Ruby. So Ray Spence, having hope. I will go fetch Ruby for you guys. Brandon, maybe you could start tap dancing for about 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'll start tap dancing. You guys won't know it's happening, but I'll be doing it for sure.
Give me a second. I'm gonna fetch her. One moment.
Gotcha. You got to see the cat, of course. There is a comment Netweed made about Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy would be interesting for me testing out. Hopefully my Switch won't melt too fast, but honestly, I'll try to run a video comparison or two to see how it scales. Yeah, I also want to do. I don't know if I'll do content on this channel or not, but I'm very curious how that game is going to be because it's. I can't imagine it being any kind of actually good, like a version you'd want to play. Like I think it's gonna be even worse. Not that games like I think The Witcher 3 and Doom are like just barely worth it. Like their trade-offs are really, really deep, but they're just playable enough to be worth it. I don't think Hogwarts Legacy will be like that. I think it's just going to be a bad version of the game on Switch. Here's the star of the show.
Hey,
Princess Ruby Showtime.
Ruby. Look. She's tired. She was napping.
Oh no. So sleepy.
Yeah. But there she is. She's doing pretty good.
She seems like she just wants to go back to bed.
Yeah, she's like, why are you bothering? I mean, she's fine. She doesn't mind. She likes
She's a
cuddling.
cat. They sleep all the time.
Yeah.
That could they sleep in.
Yeah, right now she's just letting me pet her. She's by my foot. Yeah, her
Sure, she's having the time of her life.
her cousin, because my brother went away for a few weeks, so I took care of his cat too. He was here. So they hung out for the last 3 weeks, and now she's being extra. I mean, right now she's doing her own thing, but most of the day she's just kind of following me around because she's used to having the other cat to play with. So now she's like giving me extra attention. But yeah, she's good. Captain Doge. Will Ruby buy Metro Prime 4 though?
Ruby
I'll
doesn't have
buy
a
it
job.
for
Ruby's
her.
broke.
I'll buy it for her. And she'll watch me play because she doesn't have thumbs. Although she has pressed a few buttons before. Yeah.
Sure. We could make a controller somehow. Cat controller.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Samuel Talks About Games added me. What's your prediction for new announcements, whether it's games or hardware, over the next 12 months? That's a lot of predictions. Yeah. I'll say that
I think next year is going to be a pivotal turning point.
I know some people think Switch 2 can still be announced this year. Part of me is like, I don't think it's going to be announced this year just because I see the games that are coming out through January to March, and I don't anticipate Nintendo releasing the system in that window. So I don't think Nintendo needs to announce the system this year.
Right.
Unless it's coming out like say April or May. Like if it's coming out like May, like if the Switch 2 is releasing sometime between April and June, I can see them announcing the system around now. But otherwise, I don't think it's happening. Maybe the Game Awards has a very subtle teaser for it, but that's not a prediction. You're asking for predictions. I do think there will be a Nintendo announcement that will be worthy of note at the Game Awards. What that will be, I'm still trying to sort that out myself. Maybe this is copium and there'll be nothing. But I think I am going to predict that the Game Awards will have a worthy of note announcement there. That I'm willing to predict. And
I will predict that we're not going to see anything of Switch 2 this year. But
sure,
in January or February, we'll get a direct kind of mini or just a generally not that big direct that will showcase things for like summer. And then a week or two after that happens, we'll get a tease for Switch 2. And there will be an event in March where they do a much bigger announcement. That's what I'll predict.
Yeah. I'm very interested to see how Nintendo's going to go about introducing the system to us. I don't think they're going to handle it the exact same way they handled Switch, because it's a different scenario. Switch right now is going well. And I don't think there's going to be a live presentation. I'll predict that there will not
No.
be a live presentation for Switch 2. I think it'll either be in a direct or just a very kind of like the videos, the trailers they put out for Switch Lite and Switch OLED, but a little bit more substantial. So I mean, honestly, I predict that we'll see the Switch 2 in a direct. Nintendo may announce
some sort
via
of video
social
presentation.
media. Yeah, I think Nintendo will announce that they're
Pre-recorded.
going to talk about it on social media, and then we'll
Right.
actually get like some kind of pre-made video where it'll be discussed. Whether it's branded as a direct or not, that's what I think. I don't think it'll be like an hour and a half long live presentation on a stage with a conference. Like I just don't think that's what they're gonna do. So I agree with that part. I am going to predict that we'll see both a new 3D Mario and Metroid Prime 4 next year, and a Pokemon game that's related to Generation 5. Those are my predictions. Also, Thousand Year Door is going to be off the chain, but I think that's pretty
No,
much a given.
that's a
Yeah.
given for sure.
Yeah, those are my predictions. Everything else is
It's all up in the air. It's too early.
it's all up in the air. Yeah.
And plus, next year is going to be such a pivotal moment for Nintendo. It's way harder to predict than most years.
Yeah, this is an interesting question. Let's see here. Taker with another super chat. Thank you. Do we see first Metroid Prime 4 footage in Switch 2 reveal?
I think it's very possible. Well, in the reveal, I don't know. I think in the event where we see more of it could be when we see it first. I don't think that they'll show it off. Well, maybe. I mean, they showed off a brand new 3D Mario game this way. But in like the first trailer we see, could we see like a small glimpse of Prime 4 just playing, just not even say what it is, but we know it's Prime 4? Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen, but I didn't think that would happen with the 3D Mario either, and they did that, so that's really hard to predict. Do I think it's possible? Yes. Do I think it's what they're going to do? I hope not. I mean, I guess it'd be fine if they have a big event where they show it off in a couple weeks after that, so it'd be fine.
This is what I think. I think that I mentioned something about the Game Awards. I think Metroid Prime 4 is a candidate to be teased at the Game Awards before Switch 2 is even announced. Like they could use a Metroid Prime 4 teaser to also subtly hint at Switch 2 without actually specifically stating Switch 2. I think that could happen. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm just saying it could happen. Because I do feel somewhat good about saying that something worthy of note will be announced by Nintendo at the Game Awards, and that would fit that, but there's a number of other things that could also be.
Okay.
Outside of that, I would say, the first time we see Metroid Prime 4 is when Nintendo introduces Switch 2. However that may be done. Now, I mean, to your point, Brandon, like I don't think they'll show it off in like the tweet that says, "Hey, we're gonna talk about Nintendo Switch 2 and Metroid Prime 4 on such and such date." I think whatever that date is, whenever we have that video, Metroid Prime 4 will be in there to some capacity. I personally like the idea of them just kind of announcing ahead of time that we're going to have a Nintendo Direct dedicated or focused on talking about Nintendo Switch 2 and certain and games coming for the platform. So they have a direct, maybe the first 5 to 10 minutes it's talking about the system itself. There will be some games that are like maybe it'll open up like there'll be a direct, and I think the direct will start with a cool trailer, and then after the trailer, then they'll kind of explain it for like a few minutes.
Yeah, and the trailer will be pretty much like a mock-up of different games running on the system and like the controllers and different features of the system being used in different games. So there definitely could be some Prime 4 B-roll thrown in there.
Yeah. Now, my only concern about if they do that is because what'll happen is my first time seeing Metroid Prime 4 will be in the Switch 2 reveal trailer. So, like, my Metroid Prime 4 reaction. Like, it's gonna be.
I'm sure in that same event though, they'll do a full reveal of the game. They're not just gonna be like, "Here's a little glimpse," and then that's it. Like, if it will probably be one of the major releases for the system, so I assume they'll talk about it in length. Like, they're not just gonna be like, "Well, here's a little glimpse," unless there's another event later when they're like short, like a month or a couple months after that is gonna be like the real event, and this is like a smaller event, like a teaser event. I could see that, but if like the full reveal event, like they're gonna do an in-depth talk of the game. They're not just gonna show a little glimpse.
It would be really interesting if they do have like a 10-minute direct that talks about Switch 2, and there are games in it. Like, there are games in the footage, but Nintendo never's like acknowledges the games.
Well, it'd just be like the Switch reveal, just a little more added
expanded
to it.
upon. Yeah, right.
That October trailer.
But it would just be interesting if they just kind of sit on that for like 3 months, right? So imagine we get this direct in March, and it's like a 10-minute direct that just showcases what the Switch 2 can do, and we see 3D Mario and Metroid Prime 4 and a few other games like in the footage, but they don't tell us. They say, "Oh yeah, the Metroid Prime 4 runs." Well, like, they're not gonna say anything. We're just gonna be like, well, "That's what it is." And then 3 months later in June, then they have a direct, and they're like, "Hey, now it's time to talk about all of our game plans." Like, and that's where they sort of showcase everything.
I mean, I think
that would be interesting.
There will be two different events spaced out, because I don't think the reveal event of the Switch is where they're going to go, full out on these games. But I don't think they're just gonna show them like they did on the October Switch trailer. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to talk about them a little more, but obviously we're not going to know like every feature. But we're gonna get introduced to these games. I think it'll be more of like a direct, because I think they're going to use that as a chance to talk about the big launch games and more than just showing them and not saying what they are. But I do think like the major way we see those games, like, we're going to get a decent understanding of them, but not like a ton. And then like in sometime in the midsummer, I think that's when we'll get like another direct that really showcases what they are, because they do want the hype for this system to be like immediate, I think, and they want you to kind of like understand the features right away. So I think they will need to explain a little bit, and not just like right before it actually releases.
How much of a like, maybe they should have shorter than a 6-month window between reveal and release. Like, for Switch, it was pretty quick. Like, the initial teaser was mid-October. Excuse me. And the game came out at the very beginning of March. So there were 4 full months in between, and then like 2 weeks. Like, it was like a 4.5 month window. Like, I kind of like the idea of them having a short window like that. Like, maybe the system is announced in March, but it releases like August or something. Like it's short. Or July even. We've seen it release hardware in July.
I mean, September is 6 months, so August would be 5, July would be 4.
Yeah, I guess my point is, like, do we really need that long of a window, a 6-month window?
No.
I kind of feel
it fits with like what I think it just depends on when Nintendo can get it, because it's not only their first party, because you got to think about when the hardware is ready, when their first party software is ready, when the third party software is ready, all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure that they are thinking, hey, let's do, in my mind, I think a March to September is like kind of the longest window they would do, and then like they're kind of keen to do a little earlier. That's kind of like gut feeling is like, okay, March to September, that's the 6-month window. That feels like, if we have to, that's what we'll do. But if we can get it a few months earlier, August, July,
Brandon, let me ask you a question before we move on. What's more important for Nintendo to lock down? Is it more important for Nintendo to lock down the release date for the system, or the day that they announce the system? I feel like I know the answer to that. I'm just kind of curious what you think. I'm sorry for putting you on the spot. I could just tell you what I think.
I lost you for a second, but
I
I was deep in thought. I think probably the time when the console actually releases is probably more important than the time when they announce it.
Yes.
I think anytime next year makes like they can announce it, it doesn't really matter too much.
Exactly. That's exactly what I think. Like, so whenever the system is ready, whenever the games are ready, then they're like, all right, once they figure that out, then they decide, okay, what is a good time to showcase it and lead up to that. Like, once they lock that down, then they decide when to showcase it. So we'll see. We'll see on that. But let's go back to the chat because we definitely tangented there.
We trying to get a final question?
Yeah. Cloud9 added the both of us. Will the both of you be purchasing both Superstars and Wonder?
Superstars?
Trying to think. What Superstars game?
Do you mean Super Mario RPG?
I will be getting Super Mario RPG and I will be getting Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I already have Mario
I know
Party
I'm getting Wonder. I don't know if I'm gonna get Super Mario RPG just because
I'm getting both.
I think I will. I think I'll get it. I just don't know if I'll have time to play it. But
Yeah.
I definitely want to play Wonder. It's just the only reason I might not get Super Mario RPG is because I'm so hyped for Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. I'm just like, I can just wait for that. That's another Mario RPG.
I'm not judging you for picking and choosing. You do you.
But yeah, definitely getting Wonder.
Cloud9 was referring to Sonic Superstars.
Oh, I barely even know what that game is. I just know it's like a new 2D Sonic or something.
I was planning on getting
don't care.
it.
Never played Sonic. Never cared.
I guess I could. I haven't gotten it. Isn't it? It's coming out tomorrow. I haven't checked.
I've just never been a Sonic fan. Nah, I don't dislike Sonic. I just don't. I never really played many of the games. I'm just not. Haven't kept up with it. So
the 76 on Metacritic. It's not the worst.
76 is not great though.
Yeah, that's the PlayStation version.
What did Sonic Mania score?
Good question. Yeah, because I like Sonic Mania.
Yeah, everybody likes Sonic Mania from what I heard.
What do you think it scored?
I think in the high 80s.
86.
Okay, it's pretty decent.
Yeah, it's better. It's a lot. That's noticeably better.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm on the fence on Sonic Superstars. I planned on when I first saw the first trailer, I was really into it, but from what I heard, it's not as good as Sonic Mania, so it has me on the fence a little bit. And I am about to buy Mario Wonder.
Yeah,
we'll see. I mean, what price is it on the Switch eShop?
I imagine it'd be $60.
Is it $60? If it was $20,
new game.
Yeah, but it's not every
new
game is $60.
Yeah, but it's a new mainline 2D Sonic, isn't it?
What do you think?
Is it 60?
I mean, the answer is yes.
Then yes. I mean, I already thought that. Yeah, it is
$60.
That makes sense.
I bet it'll get discounted fairly quick.
It's literally Sega's
it looks so
mascot
good,
game. Why would they not?
I mean, I'm looking at just the images on my Switch, and it just looks beautiful. I mean, that looks great. It's not even OLED. It's just like normal Switch. It just looks good. It just looks good. Like
it does look noticeably better on the other platforms, though. So I would at least hit 60 FPS on Switch, so you're not missing out on frame rate.
Oh yeah, I gotta make sure the Switch version would look and run well enough.
I know
it's a 2D game, so I feel like it will.
Well, I believe the game was made with Switch in mind and then upgraded for other platforms so that they could hit 60 FPS on it.
Maybe there's not a lot of Switch reviews in yet. And maybe when the Switch reviews come in, then the Metacritic score will look better. Because I saw that it's a PlayStation 5 version that most people got the reviews for, which is odd if they kind of made the game for Switch in mind. But it is what it is.
It was literally just so that they could make sure the Switch version looks and runs good, because they wanted to hit 60 FPS on it.
That makes sense. I mean, you could argue Switch versions Switch versions important, right? Because a lot of people they're gonna get it on Switch.
It's gonna probably be one of the best selling, if not the best selling version of the game.
Yeah. All right, final question. Netweed09. Would you read anything into key Zelda Mario games at Switch's launch year, and now key Zelda and Mario games again, so Switch's final year?
I read into that Nintendo likes Zelda and Mario and they sell well. I mean, now Nintendo, the reason they pushed the big like Zelda, and obviously we have the big Zelda, but we don't have the big Mario game this year. But like they wanted to sell systems. Now they're trying to sell they're using 2D Mario because they know it sells software, which is what you do at the end of a system's life. It's just they put out the games that would push hardware early on. Now they're putting out the games that push software.
Yeah.
Although Tears of the Kingdom is kind of a outlier there.
So I'll say that. Yeah, I mean, it's 2D Mario and 3D Zelda versus 3D Mario and 3D Zelda, so I'm not sure the comparison's exactly the same. I do think 3D Mario is coming out very soon, and it's a Switch 2. It's probably the launch title. So we got that.
Probably within 12 months of now.
But
12 or
I will say, right, and I made a video about this last week. I think there's a really good chance Nintendo will, in some way, shape, or form, get something Zelda related for Switch 2 that will be somewhat of a visual showcase for the system. Why? Not okay. Let me rephrase. It doesn't. I think visually it will be impressive, whatever it is that they do put out. But I think the better phrase would be just something Zelda that will showcase the system. And the reason I say that is because when you look at how Nintendo handles Zelda, either A, the Zelda game comes out at the end of a system's life cycle, or B, it comes out in the beginning. So,
you know what I want? That wouldn't actually be that hard, and it's kind of a continuation of what they've done before. I want Wind Waker ray trace. I mean, you can't call it 4K. I guess you could call it 4K. Wind Waker Ultra HD. I don't know. The point is, I want Wind Waker with ray trace global illumination as like the key graphical selling point of that version of the game.
I'll say that maybe, that would be really cool. I don't know. Kind of video I kind of talked about the different options, like maybe Ocarina of Time remake or Twilight Princess, or maybe Wind Waker. Maybe there's something to that idea where those get more visually enhanced, or maybe they go back to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom and they visually enhance those. Maybe add some new content. Like there's options, but something like that.
I would love if they did if you guys have ever seen Quake 2 RTX, it's essentially Quake 2, but they took all the textures and changed them to have new materials that work with ray tracing, and then it's just path traced Quake, and it's something that came out to show off the RTX cards in 2018, and that was really cool. I would love to see Ocarina of Time. It's still the N64 game, but with new materials and ray trace lighting. I think that would be super cool.
It would be. I mean, I would love it if they were to go back to Twilight Princess and make it look like the tech demo from the Wii U.
Yes.
I would love that. And maybe kind of reimagine the boss fights and remix the dungeons.
Yeah.
I mean,
mainly the open world, I think, honestly needs the most attention. Because the bosses and dungeons were really good in Twilight Princess. The open world was kind of the most disappointing part. I want them to flesh that out.
I I don't know how much they can like change the map without
Just
it
add more
becoming...
stuff to do.
So so maybe you mean overworld, not open world.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can make it into an open world. Just make it like no loading screens.
Sure,
Just
you
kind of
can
like
just
they
go
did
from...
with why can I remember the Island 2D Zelda game, the remake in 2019,
I know.
Link's Awakening.
I'm letting you drown a
Link's
little bit.
Awakening. You're letting me drown just like Link.
Yeah, Link's Awakening remake. That's a good point. Because I think you just... because in the original, like, it was square by square, and in the remake, you just kind of flowed through without any pausing, or not pausing, delay between one square and another. That I'm okay with that. It'd be interesting if they did incorporate... Well, I guess my point is, right, like, so if you remix the boss fights and the dungeons, maybe even make it offer a harder mode where they actually kind of redo the combat to where it's more challenging. Because Twilight Princess was very easy. Like, they make it more challenging, and by making it more challenging, you give players more reason to find other ways to beat them. So maybe they can incorporate more things in the overworld, where they encourage your exploration of the overworld, to give you maybe more power-ups and things of that nature. And what was really cool about Twilight Princess is that there was a little bit of boundary breaking, where there were certain areas of the map where you could kind of like do some sort of weird glitch to like get to kind of beyond a certain barrier. And there's actually like a lot of terrain that you kind of explore. There was nothing there, but there was like terrain to explore. And what's really interesting about Twilight Princess, the more I talk about it, there was actually a lot of content that was cut or changed around. Like there was actual enemies and creatures that never made it to the final game, but they were like in the underlying code. It would be cool if they kind of like reintegrated that, right? Like we're talking about getting new content here, right? Like, so that would be cool. And I don't, while this may seem like a kind of like a pipe dream kind of experience, maybe it is, but I don't think it's as much of a stretch as some people might argue, just because we've seen Nintendo do this several times already during the Switch era. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. They literally added a whole other area to explore that was based off a cut content from the initial project. And the game had almost completely redone visuals. So you got that. That's one example. Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe literally added an entire new epilogue campaign that has story implications. 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. Bowser's Fury, they literally added a mini open world Mario game to the project. So I do think that they could do something like that, but we'll see. It's one of many possibilities. I wouldn't even say it's likely, but I think they're going to do something Zelda related to showcase the system. What that is, obviously, that's up for debate.
I'm excited.
Yeah. And of course, it is still my speculation. I don't... That maybe the case Nintendo will not follow the pattern for the first time ever, not have any sort of major Zelda game to showcase the system the first 2 years of the system, which they've never done before. But, we'll see. Taker610 with another super chat here. Thank you for this additional super chat. I'll get to this one, then we'll close out. Could Grezzo be remaking Ocarina of Time Majora's Mask for Switch 2? It's kind of closely tied to what we were just talking about, right?
Yeah. It's an option for what we were just talking about.
Right, it is an option. We don't know what Grezzo's working on right now. We know that they came out recently with this iOS dragon racing game. I played it. It's very simple. I'm pretty sure they definitely have something else they've been working on since
that was
Miitopia.
a side thing, I'm sure.
Yeah. So they got something brewing, and it could be that. One of the points of the video is that I kind of talked about these old rumors for an Ocarina of Time HD. People assumed that rumor died out, but I speculated that maybe it didn't die, it just got repurposed, and maybe it's for Switch 2 or not. But yeah, I do think Grezzo is as Brandon said, one of the possibilities. And if they do Ocarina of Time, they can then do Majora's Mask. And considering how long we're have to wait for the next 3D Zelda, No, yeah, maybe like they get Ocarina of Time HD in 2025, and then in 2027 they do Majora's Mask HD, and then in 2028 they finally showcase the next Zelda, and it comes out 2029.
That would be very nice, but also,
Is 2029 too soon?
well, it's just that
2020.
I really thought with Tears of the Kingdom they were done showing off Zelda way too early, but they're not. So I assume they're gonna do that again.
Yeah, but if they give us Zelda remakes and there's this 2-year gaps between them, and there's a 2D Zelda that's thrown in there as well, and a Zelda spinoff, like we'll have something cool Zelda for the next 4 or 5 years, and then
I don't doubt they'll
by
keep
that
us
point,
happy as Zelda fans.
yeah. So we'll see what happens though. Anyways, I think that is it for the evening. Is there anything else we want to touch on, Brandon, before we close out?
Nope, I think we covered everything.
Okay, cool. Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening and watching. If you could leave a like, that'd be very much appreciated. If you're new here, consider subscribing. But that's all for now. We'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye, guys.